Executive Director Radu, would you please call the roll?
Regent Bailing.
Present.
Regent Bradley. Regent Delgado.
Here.
Regent Evers. Regent Greavy.
Here.
Regent Farrell. Here. Regent Hall.
Here.
Regent Harsey.
Here.
Regent Higgins.
Here.
Regent Menedy. Regent Milner.
Here.
Regent Mueller.
Here.
Regent Peterson.
Here.
Regent Pruitt.
Here.
Regent Purath. Here. Regent Vasquez.
Here.
Regent Whitburn.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you. The minutes of the April 2015 Board of Regents meeting have been provided. May I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The reports of the Higher Education Aids Board, the Hospital Authority Board, and the Wisconsin Technical College System Board have been provided. Do any of you have any comments or questions about these minutes? All right. Let's move on. Yesterday was very filled. It started at 8:15 with our audit meeting, proceeded with our committee meetings. There was a lot of important work done in each one of the committee meetings, and we'll have an opportunity to hear that from the committee chairs. We also yesterday were able to welcome 3 regents, newly appointed regents, our student regent James Langness, who will be confirmed and join us at our July meeting, Michael Greavy, and Drew Peterson, whose role changes from a representative from the technical colleges to now a regent appointee. We also said goodbye and farewell to 2 old friends who have been with this University of Wisconsin system for many years. Regent President Michael Falbo and Chancellor Dick Telfer from UW-Whitewater. We hope the goodbye and farewell will not be, there will be plenty of times that they'll come back and visit us, because both of them have been very valuable to our system and to the campuses, to Regent Telfer's campus and Mike Falbo to the campuses at large. We want to thank Chancellor Money for Thursday's reception at the Kenwood Interdisciplinary Research Complex. The music was entertaining, the food was good, and the conversation lively. So thank you very much. It was a good way to transition into the evening. As chair of this meeting, I don't have a traditional report at this time. However, I'd like to share a few thoughts. The end of the school year is a time of big changes. For many, that also marks the beginning of a great new adventure. I know that several of our regents, as well as President Cross, took part in commencement ceremonies all around the state. I myself had the privilege of participating in events at several campuses: UW-Eau Claire, UW-Madison, UW-Milwaukee, and UW-Parkside. Each ceremony was unique and different, and yet they all shared a sense of pride, of accomplishment, of joy of achievement. At UW-Madison, I was struck by the families coming together from all over the globe to celebrate their son or daughter's PhD. At UW-Parkside, who could forget the keynote with President Falbo? The oral exam he delivered and wound up with elephants from Denmark. Okay, for those that you don't know, I won't go into it, but it's an inside joke. Ask Mike about it sometime. At UW-Milwaukee, a returning alum took to the podium to touch the audience with his remarks about his experiences both at UW-Milwaukee and his experiences after. At UW-Eau Claire, the faculty paid tribute to the new graduates by applauding continuously as the class of 2015 entered the auditorium in a single file procession with the faculty on either side. Let me tell you, it was a remarkable feat, the stamina that it took, because the procession took almost 30 minutes. It was very touching. It was very impressive. It's always inspiring to see the excitement and pride on the faces of the new graduates, and how that excitement and pride is also reflected in the many family members and friends who share the big moment. The focus of the commencements is on the new graduates, and that's as it should be. But it's also worth remembering and valuing the many people who played a part in many ways, both big and small, to make that moment happen. We don't have the final numbers yet, but we're expecting that about 20,000 students earned University of Wisconsin degrees this spring, and around 36,000 overall for this past academic year. That's really something to celebrate. On behalf of the Board of Regents, congratulations to all new degree holders and to those who helped make that possible. And one more thing. These ceremonies, so filled with pomp and poignant memories, should also remind us of something else, and that is the importance of a quality institution where dedicated and creative faculty inspire students to want more, where innovative research expands possibilities, and where fellow students challenge and encourage their peers. That's what the UW system, that's what our great campuses, that's what our great faculty and staff is all about. Now, with that, before we proceed, I'd like to announce a change in the agenda. Because of time constraints, we're going to have our student representative speakers that were to be here today to join us in July instead of at this meeting. We look forward to their presentations at that time. We are also planning meetings with student representatives over the summer and in the fall. Also, at the end of our last item on the full board agenda, we're going to continue our closed session. As allowed in our post-meeting notice. Now, I turn this to President Cross for his report. President Cross?
Thank you. I have a few personnel issues to report. First, I'm pleased to announce that David Ward, where did David go? There he is. Okay. Our interim Senior Vice President for Academic and Student Affairs has agreed to continue in his role for another 6 months as we renew efforts to find a permanent successor and continue our important reforms. David's commitment follows our recent decision to put the search for a new permanent position on hold due to the uncertainties of the UW system budget and our ongoing reorganizational efforts. His extension helps us see through to the conclusion of the budget process and the completion of phases 2, 3 of our internal UW system administration reforms. So thanks, David. At this time, I would also like to extend our sincere gratitude and best wishes to Al Christ, Senior Associate Vice President for Human Resources and Workforce Diversity. Al, would you stand, please? As many of you know, Al has decided to step down as of early next month. According to his running count, that means he's got about 4 more Mondays. Al has done yeoman duty. He has served the UW system institutions, the Board of Regents, system administration in one capacity or another for over 36 years, including the past 11 in system administration. It's probably fair to say he's seen about everything. Al may be leaving, and yes, he may be spending significantly more time in Florida than he has in the past, but he won't really be retiring. Starting in August, Al will be engaged as a human resources consultant for AGB, the Association of Governing Boards of Universities and Colleges, who will surely benefit from Al's knowledge and his experience. Congratulations, Al. We wish you well. On behalf of the UW system, Al, we want you to know that your patience and your wise counsel mean a lot to us, and we wish you the fullest in a healthy retirement. So now to the student spotlight. I'd like to call your attention to a young man from right here at UW-Milwaukee, who is our next student spotlight. David DeFilippis is a first-generation college student with quite a story. He is majoring in biology and Italian studies with a minor in chemistry. As you're about to hear, he is clearly a man with big dreams and a lot of drive. Please join me in welcoming David. David, you want to come to the podium?
Hello. As President Cross said, my name is David DeFilippis. I'd first like to say that I am very honored to be up here in front of you all. If it's possible, we have a short video that Chris Baylor took in January.
What I love about the research down here, well, right now it's minus 15 Fahrenheit in Milwaukee and it's 90 here. Well, what I'm doing in Panama is studying the rainforest and spending a lot of time in the outdoors in like a really unique and diverse forest. I designed a project to electronically measure trees. Basically, I'm taking ecology work to the 21st century. So instead of taking a team of 5 to 6 people to measure tens of thousands of trees, what I can do with these electronic devices is measure trees multiple times a day and have it report via the internet in real time. I think our research is so important because tropical rainforests have the most diverse and abundant amount of species in the entire world. And to better understand the dynamics of a rainforest will give us a better understanding of how to protect and preserve them. I think UWM is a good place to have research happen because ultimately it comes back to Milwaukee. It does, Anthony. Doing this research down here as an undergrad, I think I'm really fortunate that I get to do this and have this opportunity. And it's great because you learn about these amazing scientists that become like rock stars and movie stars, and then you come down here and you get to work next to them. It's pretty amazing. It's almost surreal.
So before I went to college, I spent 7 years as a diesel mechanic working on semis. I come from a background where both of my parents worked in the auto industry. My grandparents on my mother's side owned their own electronics business. My grandmother on my father's side was actually one of the first women to own property in Whitefish Bay. So with that, in high school, I actually went to Gateway in Kenosha to learn how to become a welder. So I did some welding and some mechanics, and finally I wanted to do more with my life, so I decided to come to UWM. What drew me here was mainly the work that Aldo Leopold did with conservation, having the Cedarburg Bog, and the Italian program that was here. Being of Italian descent, I thought learning more about my heritage was important. So I didn't want to just take classes, I wanted to be more involved. And UWM has this great resource called the Office of Undergraduate Research, where then Kyla Moore helped me get in touch with other professors. So the first thing I did was I brought some of my own knowledge to an existing project with Dr. Matthew Smith at the then just open School of Freshwater Sciences. I helped design hardware and software for an autonomous sampling device that went actually out into the lake to measure bacterial and algae blooms. After that, I found Dr. Stefan Schnitzer, whose lab is the one featured in the video, where I brought my own idea to him. It involved designing some devices to measure trees And the great thing about it is it takes a lot of the data that you would collect, and it normally takes a very long time, years. And all of a sudden we're looking at tree growth in real time, 2,700 miles away from where it's happening. So without UWM, I wouldn't be able to do that. Without world-class professors that travel to different areas of the world, that opportunity wouldn't happen. And if you would have asked me 5 years ago if I would have been to Panama for 5 months out of the year, I wouldn't have believed it. So what I'm currently doing right now is I just finished up volunteering at Fratney School, which is in River West. It's a Spanish bilingual school. I taught hardware and software development for a 5th grade class, and I'm very proud of a couple groups. They won 1st and 2nd place at the MPS STEM Fair. So right now I'm actually applying to Marquette to obtain an interdisciplinary master's in ecology and electrical engineering. Originally I planned to apply a similar program at UWM, but due to the fact that my professor pursued a career at Marquette, I'm forced to follow him and follow the project. With my previous background coupled with the advanced education that I got from hopefully these 2 accomplished programs, I would like to stay in Milwaukee and apply to Harley-Davidson or maybe Milwaukee Power Tools to take the knowledge that I've gained from like battery-powered electronic devices and apply them to maybe electric motorcycles or electric tools. But without UWM, without the opportunity to go to college, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And I wouldn't be in front of all of you telling my own story. Thank you. All right, great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, thanks, David, and congratulations. We wish you well. It's always exciting to hear and see what students are doing. At this time, I'd like to share some news from around the system. And it's going to be a little lengthy, so I'll tick it off as quickly as I can. More than 50 volunteers came to Memorial Park at UW-Platteville recently to plant 4,000 seedlings. You will recall that it was just about a year ago that an EF2 tornado swept through the park, as well as the campus and the city of Platteville, destroying thousands of trees. The Platteville Community Arboretum received $19,000 from the Urban Forestry Catastrophic Storm Grant, and that funding was turned over to the university to purchase the trees. Dr. Yari Johnson, an assistant professor and director of reclamation, environment, and conservation in the School of Agriculture, says the experience not only shows students what a destructive tornado can do to a natural area, but also how people can help recover from that devastation. UW-Parkside, Chancellor Debbie Ford has been named one of Milwaukee Business Journal's 2015 Women of Influence winners. Debbie, congratulations. Where did she go? Milwaukee's most influential women, the cream of the crop of the city's professional community. They've grown businesses, created products, inspired future generations, and made the community a better place. Chancellor Ford will be among the 28 winners honored at an awards event held in June. Congratulations, Debbie. An innovative plan by a group of UW River Falls students to make and market a biodegradable soap pod earned them a top spot in an international business competition last month. The students and their creation, Soapod, reached the semifinals of the International Business Model Competition in Provo, Utah, placing among the top 22 contenders in a field of more than 3,800 teams. The Soapod was developed to do away with those small plastic shampoo and conditioner containers that you might have found in hotels or find in hotels. This is not the first success for the Soapod team. Earlier this year, they took first place in the second annual Wisconsin Big Idea Tournament and received $25,000 from the Idea Advanced Seed Grant Fund at UW Extension. And yes, the hotel industry is apparently expressing considerable interest. So congratulations. UW Superior has won a $50,000 federal grant to preserve hundreds of technical drawings from Fraser Shipyard of Superior and to make them more accessible to researchers and the general public. The drawings include working design, documents, and blueprints of such well-known vessels as the Edmund Fitzgerald, the Mackinac, the Leon Fraser, and others. The award was announced recently by the National Park Service in partnership with the Maritime Administration as part of a $2.6 million package of grants to 18 projects nationwide that preserve and teach the nation's maritime history. Work is expected to start on the project this summer. Congratulations, Renee. 3 undergraduates, Amanda Ali-Ta of UW Fox Valley, Madeline Gore of UW-Madison, and Jasmine McClure of UW-Milwaukee were recently named winners of the annual UW System Liberal Arts Essay Scholarship Competition. The competition, now in its 10th year, invited students to discuss a time in their college educations when they made connections between a humanities class and a science class that resulted in unexpected and meaningful insights. Winners each receive a $2,000 scholarship to help fund the remainder of their undergraduate education. Honorable mentions were awarded also to 2 student writers, Megan Kelly of UW-Madison and Aaron Ross of UW-La Crosse. A new computer programming language for creating 3D models is generating a lot of buzz in computer science and education circles. UW-Eau Claire Assistant Professor of Computer Science, Chris Johnson, created Made Up, a program that allows people to code shapes and print them in 3D models. More than that, the program also is a way to explore math and computational ideas, which makes Made Up appealing to educators as well. The innovative project received immediate and strong support from many on Kickstarter.com, with more than 50 friends and strangers combining to meet Dr. Johnson's funding goals in less than a week. Dr. Johnson is now working on creating a desktop version of his program to meet the needs of even more users. It's targeted for release next summer. Congratulations, UW-Eau Claire. For only the second time in the UW-Stevens Point's 121-year history, the university has conferred an honorary doctorate. Wisconsin's longest-serving Congressman David Obey received the degree at the May 16th commencement ceremonies in recognition of his strong support of higher education and programs at UW-Stevens Point and beyond. Congressman Obey, who grew up in Wausau, helped Stevens Point secure funding for the Wisconsin Institute for Sustainable Technology and the Geographic Information Systems Training Center, among other things. A group of students in UW-Stout's cross-media graphics management program are on a roll, literally. The students were recently commissioned by Dunn County Transit, Menominee's public bus service, to do something about the company's plain white vehicles. Led by designer and project manager Kelsey Ann Hayes, a senior from Sturgeon Bay, 4 students designed highly visible, colorful graphics under the theme of En Route, driving community together. The images, which include UW Stouts Clock Tower were created with a software program, and then large format graphics were produced in a printing lab. They've been a big hit. It's a project students should be proud of, said Dunn County Transit Director Kent Conklin. UW-Madison continues to be one of the state of Wisconsin's greatest economic engines, accounting for $15 billion in economic impact statewide, according to a new report conducted by North Star Consulting. The report shows that UW-Madison, UW Hospital and Clinics, and the university's affiliated organizations and startup companies support 193,310 Wisconsin jobs and generate more than $847 million in state and local tax revenue. That's up from 128,000 jobs and $614 million in tax revenue the last time a similar study was completed in 2011. Between 2011 and 13, UW-La Crosse granted an average of 31 physics degrees. Tied for second place were SUNY College at Geneseo and the U.S. Naval Academy. The rankings only consider institutions that grant bachelor's degrees but not graduate degrees. UW-La Crosse was cited for its wide variety of programs, one-on-one advising, its undergraduate research, and extracurricular activities, including student organizations and public lectures by award-winning physicists. Other UW system campuses to make the list were UW-Eau Claire and UW-River Falls. Congratulations. A new public-private partnership aimed at encouraging businesses to leverage the expertise and energy of UW Green Bay faculty, staff, and students with the leadership transformation services of a company called Initiative One was recently launched with a memorandum of understanding signed by Chancellor Gary Miller and Initiative One founder and CEO Fred Johnson. The intent is for Initiative One's team of professionals to work with UW Green Bay's Austin Coffrin School of Business faculty to explore and develop a series of projects and programs that will positively influence the greater Green Bay business community. Initiative One also will help place UW Green Bay student interns on projects. Congratulations, Chancellor Miller. Art major Netta Ron, a new graduate of UW-Whitewater, has won a prestigious Tiffany & Company Foundation scholarship to pursue her interest in metalsmithing and jewelry. What's more, Netta has also been accepted into the graduate program at the highly selective Rhode Island School of Design. The school's jewelry and metalsmithing program only accepts up to 6 students a year, with applicants from all over the world. Netta, who is from Israel, says she's grateful for her undergraduate experience at UW-Whitewater because it provided her with critical communication skills in addition to providing a creative environment. Congratulations, Netta and UW-Whitewater. The Ho-Chunk Nation and UW-Marshfield-Wood County are celebrating a partnership that ultimately may preserve and perpetuate the Ho-Chunk language. At a time when it's estimated there are only about 100 fluent Ho-Chunk speakers left, the new one-year Ho-Chunk Educator Certification Program will assist with training educators to pass the language on to students and future generations. Ho-Chunk Nation President John Greendeer, a graduate of UW-Marathon County and UW-Stevens Point, called the partnership, and I quote, as historic as it is essential. 10 UW-Oshkosh student entrepreneurs recently completed a 12-week accelerator program offered by the Alta Resources Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation. The program provided students with the opportunity to work with business mentors, a startup curriculum, and one-on-one consulting, along with $5,000 in seed money to develop their business ideas. Student teams then pitched their ideas to Lieutenant Governor Rebecca Clayfish and former Shark Tank investor Kevin Harrington. As one student described the experience, we learned so much, they gave us the tools, and it was up to us to make it happen. Chancellor Andy Levitt said university leaders have taken note of the center's success and are working to incorporate some of its components into the College of Business curriculum. I also wanted to call your attention to a hot-off-the-press copy of Wisconsin Biz magazine, should be in your folders. Now it's in its third year. The publication, which UW System co-sponsored, is part of the state's economic development and marketing plan. If you'd like some additional copies, just contact me. Immediately following our last meeting, hosted by UW-Waukesha, I had the pleasure of taking part in the inauguration of UW Colleges and UW Extension Chancellor Kathy Sandeen. It was a simple and joyful event with many colleagues and friends in attendance, including a good number of you here in this room. As the former chancellor of those two institutions, I have a special appreciation of the opportunities and challenges that colleges and extension has before them. And I'd like to express my deep satisfaction in having Kathy at the helm. Despite having been on the job for less than 6 months, she's navigated some very difficult decisions amid a very challenging budget environment. And she's done so with great poise and purpose. At this time, I would just like to reiterate my complete confidence in Chancellor Sandeen. Her leadership should be applauded. Finally, we have several news items about the UW Flexible Option Program. First, UW Extension and UW-Milwaukee received notice just last Friday from the U.S. Department of Education that all of the UW-Milwaukee Flex Option programs are now approved to award the Title IV aid, that is federal aid for students enrolled in competency-based education. Together, with the approval that UW Colleges received last fall, the University of Wisconsin continues to be the first and only public university in the country to be granted this approval. UW Extension, UW Colleges, and UW-Milwaukee are now working hard to create the operations and procedures that will allow flex students to receive financial aid. UW Colleges students will begin to receive aid this summer, and UW-Milwaukee students will follow later in the fall. Second, we are proud to share that the UW Flex programs at UW Colleges and UW-Milwaukee both had successful site visits with the Higher Learning Commission. UWM received its notice just this week that their site team's positive recommendation to the HLC. UW Colleges received a similar notice about a month ago. Both are now awaiting final confirmation from HLC's Institutional Action Council in the next month or so. In the meantime, and this merits real congratulation, both site teams were so impressed with what they learned from us that they thanked our institutions for blazing trails for the rest of the nation about how to develop high-quality, competency-based education. They heralded UW Flex as setting the national standard. Well done, UW Extension, UW Colleges, and UW-Milwaukee, and everyone involved with building the UW Flex Option program. Thank you. That concludes my report, Regent President Miller.
Thank you, President Cross. Gratifying news from all over the system. I now call upon Regent Whitburn to present a report of the actions taken by the Audit Committee.
The Audit Committee met principally to discuss and approve the internal audit plan for fiscal year 2016. As you are aware, our system-wide waste, fraud, and abuse hotline is now up and running. As you'll also recall, the integration of our internal audit staff from around the institutions into the system internal audit function will occur on July 1st. Clearly, our Chief Audit Executive has been busy. Priority setting for the 2016 audit plan was driven by a risk assessment survey that was distributed broadly in recent weeks across our organizations. Among others, the audit priorities this next year will include examining institutional reserve and financial reporting, travel and expense reimbursement, cash handling, and by the way, we continue to have a lot of cash handling across the system, and the use of purchasing cards, and the monitoring of payroll operations, and a review that's appropriate from time to time of our important emergency preparedness plans, campus by campus. I would move adoption of Resolution 15B, approving our fiscal 2016 audit plan.
Thank you. Is there a second? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. I call upon Regent Higgins to present a report of actions taken by the Research, Economic Development, and Innovation Committee. Regent Higgins.
Thank you, Vice President Milner. Chancellor Marconi was joined by Brian Thompson, President of the UWM Research Foundation, and Ilya Avdiyev, Assistant Professor of Mechanical Engineering, to speak on initiatives to engage local, regional, and global business entities and to provide opportunities for students. They highlighted UWM Research Foundation's partnerships and development of patients in the area of water technology, aquaculture, energy, advanced manufacturing, healthcare, and biomedical technology, and healthcare delivery and nursing. They also shared how UWM fosters research, innovation, and entrepreneurship on campus through its Student Startup Challenge and collaborations with other institutions in Milwaukee. Kathy Sinnott, WEDC's Vice President of International Business Development, provided an update on current initiatives and programs with a focus on WEDC's efforts to collaborate with the university and state businesses to foster exports for Wisconsin businesses to our biggest trade partners, Canada, Mexico, China, Japan, and the United Kingdom and Germany. Vice President Sinnott also shared WEDC's efforts to increase awareness of foreign direct investment opportunities across the state, while noting that 1,537 foreign-owned establishments provide 86,440 jobs in Wisconsin. David J. Ward, Principal of Angels on the Water and UW System Interim Senior Vice President, moderated a panel discussion of Wisconsin angel and venture capitalists. The panelists were Charlie Goff, principal of the New Venture Capital Fund in Appleton, John Nice, principal of Venture Investors of Madison, and Leon Ostrowski, founder, Central Wisconsin Business Angels, Plover, Wisconsin. Discussion centered on the current process of connecting researchers and inventors to venture and angel capital and how that process can be improved. That is my report, Madam Vice President.
Thank you, Regent Higgins. Are there any questions or discussions from the board? All right, let's move on. There are no approvals there. So I'll call upon Regent Bradley to present a report of the action taken by the Education Committee. Regent Bradley.
Thank you, Vice President Milner. We heard a presentation from the top administrative leaders of the three largest public education institutions in the Milwaukee area, the Chancellor of UW-Milwaukee and the heads of Milwaukee Area Technical College and Milwaukee Public Schools. And those leaders talked about a new partnership that they have developed, which they call M-Cubed. And this is a partnership to combine resources and leverage the efforts of all three institutions to close the achievement gap, provide a better prepared workforce for Wisconsin, and strengthen the regional economy. We didn't have a report of the Senior Vice President because of time constraints, not that he didn't have anything to say. The action items that we dealt with, there were 7 parts to Resolution 11A, our consent agenda. Part 1 approved our minutes from our last meeting. Part 2 approves BS in Material Science and Engineering at UW-Eau Claire. As you recall, in February, we discussed the addition of 4 engineering programs to our academic program array, and the proposed UW-Eau Claire engineering program is the second of those 4 programs that are coming forward. Part 3 of our consent resolution approved BS in Data Science at UW River Falls. Part 4 approved a BS in Digital Marketing Technology at UW-Stout. And Part 5 approved the adjusted request from UW-Madison to the William F. Vilas Trust Estate and the proffer from the Vilas trustees to UW-Madison in the amount of roughly $12.3 million. Part 6 did the same thing from the Vilas trustees only to UW-Milwaukee, and that is in the amount of approximately $121,000. And Part 7 approves promotions, tenures, designations, and related academic items. So I now move approval of Resolution 11A, Parts 1 through 7.
Second.
Is there any discussion or questions about the consent agenda? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And then on our full agenda, the committee unanimously adopted Resolution 11B, which had 4 parts to it. Part 1 approves a Doctor of Education in First Nations Education at UW-Green Bay. Part 2 approves a Doctor of Education in Educational Leadership and Policy at UW-Oshkosh. Part 3 approves an online Doctor of Education in Student Affairs Administration and Leadership at UW-La Crosse. And Part 4 approves a Doctor of Education in Educational Sustainability at UW-Stevens Point. We heard from the provosts of all 4 of those institutions talking about the fact that they are not, they don't duplicate and justifying the needs for them. So I now move Resolution 11B1 through 4.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
We also took up the resolution approving the Regent policy on tenure. President Cross made a presentation explaining that if the budget bill, as it is currently fashioned, is approved, then the statutory reference to tenure as it exists now in Chapter 36 would no longer exist. So the idea is that if the legislature passes a budget bill with taking the tenure section out of Chapter 36, this resolution that the Education Committee is recommending to the board would go into effect. And based on an amendment to the resolution that Regent Whitburn offered and which was adopted, the time framework for the UW System Task Force on the Tenure Policy Task Force, I should say, would be moved up. Instead of saying that we would hear a report from the Tenure Policy Task Force by June of 2016, the idea was to move it up to April of 2016 when the board meets. We also heard from 2 faculty representatives, and every member of the board, I think, has received a lot of correspondence from faculty members. But it's important to, for us to understand that this resolution that we are passing does what we can do. It doesn't address something that only the legislature can address. So you have in your materials the Resolution 11C as it was amended. And I would just like to read it so that everybody understands and everybody in our audience understands that what we're doing is what we are able to do, and that is affect our policies. So the resolution as amended reads that upon the recommendation of the Vice President and the President of the University of Wisconsin System, the Board affirms its support for the importance of tenure for ensuring academic freedom and approves the attached new Regent policy document on tenure, contingent upon and effective upon the date that Section 36.13 Wisconsin statutes is repealed. The new Regent policy document maintains the provisions currently codified in Section 36.13 Wisconsin statutes and shall be construed in accordance with applicable state law. This new Regent policy document will sunset on the date that the Board adopts a tenure policy as a result of the work of the Tenure Policy Task Force, which shall not be later than April 11, 2016. The board directs the Tenure Policy Task Force to specifically review provisions affecting layoffs. So I now move Resolution 11C.
Second.
Discussion or questions? Drew?
Vice President. First, let me begin my remarks by thanking Chairman Bradley for including faculty in our discussion yesterday. I think that was entirely appropriate, colored the discussion far more favorably, and it's just an illustration of the class act that is Mark Bradley. So for that, Mark, thank you. I believe this tenure motion is a resolution affirming the board's respect for the importance of tenure and academic freedom. As Chairman Bradley read, the board affirms in its second sentence its support for the importance of tenure for ensuring academic freedom. Yesterday, we developed and by amendment accelerated a targeted and aggressive timeline for action that ensures appropriate stakeholders, most notably our valued faculty, are included in this critical discourse. I think we further amended the policy to ensure that the task force specifically reviews and addresses all provisions affected by layoffs, which was a fundamental request of our faculty. I believe, and I think most of the Board of Regents agrees, that this board is committed to completing action on a modernized tenure policy so we can eliminate any ambiguity or volatility and reaffirm a robust policy for the UW system. I support this resolution based on the decisions we made yesterday, and I thank the chairman for his efforts.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Regent Vasquez?
I also will support the resolution, and I would just simply again ask that we continue, as we have attempted to do, to maintain some open dialogue and discuss this whole area of tenure and all of its ramifications. And that, again, we attempt to have dialogue with the legislature, because at the end of the day, they will have or have the authority to have the ultimate word on this. And so I hope that we continue to stretch out our arms, wanting to have some meaningful dialogue so that we can help them if they wish to create legislation that will affect tenure, that it be done with some meaningful input from the university. And so I will support this, knowing that our administration, in partnership with our faculty and academic staff and others that are affected by this, will extend that willingness to have a meaningful dialogue with the legislature, so that if there is going to be any kind of legislative language inserted in, whether it be a bill or a law, that it is truly created in the Wisconsin spirit, which is mutual dialogue and willingness to arrive at meaningful compromise. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? All right. Regent Higgins.
Thank you, Vice President Milner. I just want to thank Chairman Bradley and the Education Committee for emphasizing the absolutely key link between tenure and academic freedom, which I think we have, in the public debate on this, neglected to emphasize. And the history of this Board of Regents supporting academic freedom of our faculty members goes back 121 years, and I certainly expect that we will continue that tradition when we are approving the recommendations of our new tenure committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions or comments? All right, let's take a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Vice President Milner, that concludes my report. I have a motion that I would like to make. It's your pleasure. It relates to this issue, so either now or later in the agenda when you ask for any other motions or petitions.
We're on this topic now, so would you make your motion?
Yes. I think there is confusion or misunderstanding that the Board of Regents could help clear up. There have been comments on this tenure issue and layoff issue and termination issue to the effect of that the omnibus motion passed by the Joint Finance Committee, particularly Section 39 of the omnibus motion, does not change tenure. In fact, one of the most respected members of the legislature, Senator Sheila Harsdorf, said, "We're not changing tenure, we're just putting it with the Board of Regents." Well, unfortunately, 100%, I think, of our faculty and academic staff sees it differently. And the reason they see it differently is because Section 39 starts out saying that we're changing state law, because it says that it is to modify or change current law to specify that the board may, with appropriate notice, terminate any faculty or academic staff appointment when such an action is deemed necessary due to a budget or program decision regarding program discontinuance, curtailment, modification, or redirection, instead of when a financial emergency exists as under current law. So it is a change if the legislature adopts this omnibus motion as part of the budget bill. I think what is behind all this very heartfelt communication that is coming from our faculty and our academic staff is not the specifics of the change. It's that a change in our tenure policy comes without any identification that a problem exists, without any gathering of data, without any analysis, and without any public discussion of an issue that really should be a Board of Regents issue to determine. And a discussion, obviously, involving the people affected, involving the stakeholders of the university community, which is the way we make policy decisions. So I would like to move that the board urge the members of the Wisconsin legislature to delete all non-fiscal items relating to tenure in Section 39 of the omnibus motion approved by the Joint Committee on Finance, so that the UW System Tenure Policy Task Force can thoroughly review and recommend tenure policies for the UW system.
All right, discussion. Regent Whitburn.
I would move the tabling of the just introduced resolution.
Second.
All right, we can't have a discussion on a tabling motion. We have to take a vote for the tabling motion now. All in favor of the tabling motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
No.
The ayes have it. All right, shall we move on? I'd ask Regent Mueller to present the report of the Business and Finance Committee.
Thank you, Madam Vice President. The committee received a presentation from UW-Milwaukee regarding plans for a contribution-based budget model. The current model was unable to respond to overall enrollment declines, provided insufficient incentives, and was difficult to link activities and their related costs. The new budget model is able to respond to enrollment declines and allows for this link to activities. They're very pleased with the model thus far. The committee received a presentation from UW-Madison regarding 6 program policies intended to complete the initial implementation guidance for the Human Resources Design Program. This new system will be effective July 1st, 2015. Employees at all other UW system institutions are covered by a separate personnel system. So these program policies and guidelines for UW-Madison are for them alone and are provided only for our review, not a vote that's needed. The committee approved a revised Regent policy document regarding search and screen procedures for chancellors, senior vice presidents, and vice presidents. We heard from Regent Vice President Milner, who presented the justification for these changes. I think it's fair to say we had a very robust discussion about them. They're designed to provide a stronger role for the board in the selection of chancellors by having a regent chair the Search and Screen Committee for chancellors and making numerous other changes to tailor searches to the campuses and hopefully make them more flexible and nimble and indeed comprehensive. Again, there was a robust discussion because certainly some members thought that these changes have strong merit, but the question is why now? But as Regent Vice President Milner explained, this will give time for various committees and staff to work to put together the procedures related to the new revised Regent policy document, and it was approved. Other matters before the committee included a number of agreements. The first was an agreement with Barnes & Noble College booksellers at UW-Eau Claire for a new contract for a one-year period, and the commissions to UW-Eau Claire for the life of the contract would be almost $2 million. And the committee approved several UW-Madison service agreements and amendments with private firms. The first with a firm called Biomedical Research Models to the tune of about $1.25 million. This is agreement for work involving plasmid, DNA, and protein molecules. And it will continue through May of 2016. Second, another agreement and amendment was with Audro Biotech. This is work involving whole cell vaccines and related products, $2 million agreement, and that work would be completed in December of this year. And finally, an agreement with Madison Vaccines Incorporated. It's work that's being conducted by the Department of Medicine and the Comprehensive Cancer Center. That's $1.6 million. We also approved or accepted a potential conflict of interest regarding the UW-Madison agreement with Madison Vaccines, but both the UW System Office of General Counsel and UW-Madison Office of Legal Affairs had reviewed this situation and believed that the potential conflict of interest could be managed appropriately. I should add, though, that there was some discussion because this particular contract came in late. We were approving it after the fact. The money was received as early as 2014. And in good discussions among committee members, Madam Vice President, I think that this is something that we need to look at. There's probably some clarification that's needed when federal funds are received by the university but flow through a private company. And there also was some discussion of possibly increasing the threshold of our review to perhaps as high as $1 million. Those are still under advisement, but I wanted to bring it to your attention today and also to smile a bit and say this is wonderful news because these contracts that are approved is, all good, and you can see it's in that important biotechnology area. Just a few other points. We were presented with a summary of gift, grant, and contract awards, down slightly from the prior year, and the federal awards were down slightly from the prior fiscal year, but non-federal awards increased. So everything according to plan. And similarly, we received a high-level summary budget report on our actual revenues and expenditures, and both through March 31st are within our budget targets. And finally and importantly, the committee heard from Dr. Robert Golden, who's the Dean of the School of Medicine and Public Health at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. He presented the results of really months of work that have taken place to develop a new agreement between the University of Wisconsin Hospitals and Clinics, the University of Wisconsin Medical Foundation. The committee approved that integration agreement, not without some discussion, but it has been unanimously or very strongly approved by all of the bodies involved at UW-Madison, the foundation, and the authority, who believe it's really very vital to enhance their ability to fulfill their mission. Regent Emeritus David Walsh was also heavily involved with this. So with that, Madam Vice President, I now move adoption of Resolution 12A, which was the approval of our minutes, 12D, which is the approval of the revised Regent Policy Document 6-4 on executive searches, and you have that in your packet. 12E, the Eau Claire Bookstore and Textbook Rental Contract. 12F, the UW-Madison Agreement with Biomedical Research Models Incorporated. 12G, the contractual agreement with UW-Madison and Enduro Biotech. 12H, acceptance of the conflict of interest regarding the UW-Madison agreement with Madison Vaccines. 12I, the UW-Madison contractual agreement with Madison Vaccines. And finally, 12L, approval of the integration agreement between the UW Hospital and Clinics Authority and the UW Medical Foundation.
Thank you. Is there a second? Any questions or discussion?
I would like to separate the question and remove the item L, the last one, from and have a separate vote on that, please.
All right. Thank you. We'll remove L from it and have a discussion. Any other comments or questions? Yes? Regent Perth?
Thank you. I just wanted to express my support for the revisions to the Regent policy concerning executive searches. I think that this is great for students, and I think it'll allow them to have their voices more prominent in the process. So I'm excited for these. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
As being part of the committee yesterday, there was some very good dialogue during that committee, and I thought it would maybe be helpful if you, as the person who introduced it to the committee, could just walk us through a little bit of the dialogue that we shared at the committee yesterday in terms of how other states are handling this and how our policy looks compared to those around us.
Thank you.
If I might, if we're going to do that, could we then remove that item from the consent agenda and treat it as a separate item for debate and discussion? Would that be all right? I would like to move that. I would like to ask that we remove the chancellor search process in advance, which provides a context for your comments.
So we have two items removed from the consent agenda. Any others? All right. We have a second for the consent agenda. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? In order of request, we will deal with L first. You want to speak to that, Regent Farrell?
Just very briefly, my concern is almost similar to what Regent Bradley was saying about the previous motion he was talking about, and that is, for me at least, as a member with a fiduciary responsibility that I take as a member of this body, I did not hear enough reasons that justified this move at this time, and I had some concerns about it, which I expressed at the committee meeting, so I'm just bringing those here. I think we are asked to act without a lot of information, and for those of us not on the authority board, and there 3 are, I understand that, I've gone back through the minutes, they're very sketchy. I just don't get enough of a grip on what they're trying to do and why this is going to improve the situation. So other than that, there was a remark made yesterday at the committee meeting that there won't have to be 2 bills if you're a patient there anymore. Well, I need more information than that, so that's why I'm asking a separate vote.
I would ask Regent Mueller to speak to that because she's one of the regents sitting on the hospital board at this time.
Yes, thank you, Madam Vice President. I do have the honor of serving on the hospital board, and I would actually urge my colleagues to approve this integration agreement. I'd like to stress again that this is the culmination of months, perhaps even years of work among the parties, and they view it as essential. They say that their clinical, operational, and financial operations are so fragmented now, it's very difficult for them to proceed in the modern healthcare market. And the physicians approved it overwhelmingly. A two-thirds vote was required. I believe it was 82% of the voters of the physician group, that's the medical foundation, approved this. We had a unanimous vote on the part of the University of Wisconsin Hospitals and Clinic Authority. And again, I urge your support. They view it as essential for moving forward in this competitive and complex healthcare market. Thank you.
I, too, sit on the hospital board and would like to speak to this. And I encourage my colleagues to vote in favor of it. And some comments. I've been involved with the plan for integration since it was in its early stages. Actually, the first meeting, almost before I came to the first Regent meeting, was as part of that integration group in May, a discussion of the need for the integration group. I won't go into that now. I believe Regent Mueller has expressed that. But what I would say is this is actually a technicality between us as a Board of Regents and UW-MF, the physician group. As far as the decision within the hospital authority to do the integration, that falls within the hospital authority board. So this is simply a technicality that it's more of a technical resolution, because what we're doing is the original agreement, which we are now abandoning, was an agreement with the physicians to ensure that there would continue to be services provided to the patients, clinical research, and support of the hospital. So that's what we're dealing with in this particular motion. So I would encourage my colleagues to vote in favor of it. Regent Higgins.
I'm in favor of the motion, but I do want to bring up the concern that has been expressed by Regent Farrell. Actually, Regent Delgado has also expressed a concern that even though this is a kind of a technicality on our part, it's a big deal. It means a lot of money and affects a lot of lives. And we've got another one of these big deals coming up that's a technicality. As you know, I'm proud to be the Regent representative to the Wisconsin Partnership Program, which is the about it's about $400 million fund now in the Wisconsin Medical School that was created when Blue Cross Blue Shield was privatized early in the century. And soon the Wisconsin United for Health Foundation, which has been overseeing that money, is going to dissolve itself, I assume, based on the upcoming legislative report. And the responsibility for managing that will essentially devolve upon the Board of Regents. And I would hope that over the next few months, as that decision gels, that I'd be able to report to the board so that when the time comes to make the vote, that we will be informed about what's been going on. I don't think we've ever done that before, but after hearing what Regent Farrell and Regent Delgado have said about their concern about this particular situation, I'm sure that we're going to get that same kind of an issue when the WPP, Wisconsin Partnership Program, separation comes up too. And so I think with your approval, we would do a little bit more in-depth reporting as we move up to these critical decisions. Thanks.
Thank you, Regent Higgins. Regent Delgado.
Very briefly, I agree with everything Regent Higgins said, and is correct about my concerns. Yesterday I expressed my concerns as a very basic lack of information. It was explained to me that we do actual representatives, which means there are 3 regents in the board, and that we should trust what the regents have said. And that's perfectly good. And yet it feels like we're not quite living up to our responsibility. Not a lack of confidence in our fellow regents. It's just the fact that we do have responsibility. The one item that convinced me, persuaded me to vote in favor of it is when I requested, for the record, what is the impact on the authority of this Board of Regents for the activities there, and I guess it was the dean that explained that I will be the CEO. I report to the chancellor, and you can fire me. I thought that was okay. That kind of gave us a direct line, of responsibility. If I were to give it much more thought, that's very little, given the little consultation information that we have received in 1 year, and I suspect it hasn't been around for a while, I suspect that to mitigate this issue, because I have to live up to my accountability, either we do it individually, which I already approach Secretary Radu about it, or we do it in group. We need more information about these fairly complex situations. Okay? And the reason is that they do have an impact on a lot of people, and even if our accountability is just purely residual, it is there, and we have to live up to it, and we cannot just give it away. So from that perspective, I'm going to insist on more information. If there are other of you who have not received that information and feel you need more, then I think that I'm going to be pushing on our board to have a more detailed presentation of what this particular activity is all about so that we can understand it better.
Thank you. Other discussion? Regent Bailing.
As a member of the committee, I agree with what the chair has indicated. I am in favor of it today. I do recognize the concerns raised by our two fellow regents. I think Regent Higgins makes gives good advice, wise counsel. I think that in the future we do need to handle these, do a little bit more work up front, and be ready to answer some of those tougher questions. But with that in mind, and if you accept it, Madam Chair, I move approval.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right. All in favor of the resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Opposed. Thank you. All right, let's move on to the Regent policy. I'm going to take some, let's see. You've asked me to give a little background.
Correct. If you could just share with the full board some of the discussion we had at the committee yesterday in terms of how other states have handled this, yes, and how our policy stacks up, I think that'd be very helpful.
All right. Briefly, this policy change has been more or less under planning for several years, with comments going back many years from regents who have been involved with the searches. The delay of the policy is with respect to the numerous searches that we had ongoing. And I think everyone around the board can speak to the fact that we've all been part of one or many searches. What was observed and what was considered by the regents who were working on this was that there was a lack of communication between the two committees, and it's important that we have robust communication, two-way communication between the two committees, and that there was a need to update our policy to what is considered best practices within AGB best practices. What we did was what we've looked at were other systems, and there was some discussion about whether or not the other systems, the flexibilities from the other systems made us sufficient, the numbers that we had within our system made us sufficiently nimble, but that was just a minor part of what has happened. There is really only three major changes that have gone on, that go into this policy. Change number one is the change of the composition of the Search and Screen Committee, which is not changed in terms of a defined, prescribed change, but rather it's an open change that allows us to look at each campus as an individual campus and have that individual campus, that search and screen committee, reflect the needs of that campus. Another change is an earlier opportunity for the campuses to be able to weigh in on the job description for the chancellor search. We have another change that involves the chairing of the search and screen committee. There will be a chair and a vice chair. The chair of the search committee will be a regent or a regent emeritus, and only a regent emeritus with experience in the campus. The vice chair will be a faculty member of that committee. There is an opportunity for dialogue between the two committees, both at an early onset of the process and as the process progresses. One of the concerns that we've all observed is that lack of communication. And that lack of communication is not just from the Search and Screen Committee to the Regents, but also the Regents to the Search and Screen Committee. That two-way conversation that needs to go on so that we can do what we all want to do, which is, as the future progresses, as the changes are happening within the market, as we are hearing from our consultants about these changes, we can respond to those changes. Another change has been an expectation that the Regents on the selection committee will visit the campus and have input from the campus governance groups, from the campus stakeholders, so they have a better understanding of how the campus perceives their future. Because the selection of a new chancellor is, by statute, our authority, and the Regent's authority and the Regent's responsibility. We have had very good success with our chancellors. This is in no way to diminish the quality of our fine chancellors that we have in place. But part of what we need to do as Regents is our three basic responsibilities as Regents, or frankly as any board member: strategic planning, financial oversight, and leadership selection. And as one of the members of the committee said, perhaps leadership selection might be the premier of importance of those. This is looking toward the future and seeing some fractures that exist in the existing policy and addressing them now. As far as timing is concerned, we completed our last chancellor search with UW-Whitewater May 20th was the interview. Actually, 26th, the Regents approved it. And it was after that that we issued this policy. Why did we issue it now instead of next month or in September? We issued it now because it's very important that we work with the campuses for the protocols necessary to put together this new policy, which will involve a closer working together and closer engagement between the selection committee and the Regent Selection Committee and the Search and Screen Committee. All of us are interested in what is happening with leadership on all of our campuses. None of the campuses are identical. We have the difference of a Research One institution, and we have a small liberal arts college campus in Superior. Superior has a different leadership needs, and it also has different needs in finding those leaders. This is an opportunity for us all to work together, for the Regents to work with the campuses, for the campuses to work with the Regents, so that we can have the best leadership going forward. Now, any other comments or discussions? I'd like to hear, and Regent Pruitt.
Thank you. I guess, since the full board is going to vote on this resolution, I thought we might at least reprise some of our conversation of yesterday. Regent Vice President, and you did, as you did yesterday, a wonderful job of laying out, many of the virtues and benefits, and certainly I agree on a number of fronts with both your analysis in terms of, I do believe this is the most important task we have as Regents, is selecting leadership on the campuses. I certainly agree that there are elements of this that represent best practices from around the country, as Regent Veiling has suggested, and a more robust role for the Regents in terms of being involved in the selection of leadership is something that ought to be constantly encouraged and searched for. I did then, and I guess I would need once more today to express my reservations and concerns, and I did oppose this resolution, and I guess I will again today for a couple of reasons. One, and probably most importantly, is the question of timing. I am concerned that this is at a time when shared governance is obviously already a topic of conversation on our campuses, I wish we wouldn't add yet another topic to that debate at this moment, and this does represent a change in shared governance. And second, if this were a policy that was being adapted, if we were creating a university today, I think many of the elements of this policy would make a lot of sense, and indeed going forward may make some sense. But we're not creating a university today, and we have a 44-year history of a policy more or less like the one that we are changing. And as I look down this row, Chancellor's Row as we call it, I'm pretty impressed with the results and consequences of that. And I know, Regent Milner, you acknowledge that as well, and I know this change has nothing to do, it is not in any way meant to disrespect or look back on those processes. But it is a fair question to say, to ask, is would we have chosen Dean Van Galen or Debbie Ford or Joe Gow or Becky Blank or Mark Money or any of the other folks sitting back there under the new system? We don't know. And equally, I think, would they have enjoyed the support and the buy-in from their own campuses that they enjoy as a result of the policy as it has existed, and would they have been able to accomplish all that they've accomplished and are accomplishing in very difficult times? So for those reasons, I had and have reservations about it, and would have wished that we might have found a way to take a little more time. But I just wanted, to take the liberty of at least expressing those concerns. Thank you.
Regent Peterson.
Sure. So I'm not a member of the committee, and so I didn't have the pleasure of being part of the conversation. I think Regent Pruitt raises some good points as it relates to the timing. And I think what we, because there's one challenge associated with adding to the shared governance dialogue right now. But the other thing I think we have to think about as Regents is the timing of having a full Chancellor's Row at full strength. I think we've been, and I've participated in the last 2 years in 4 Chancellor searches, 2 senior staff at the administration. I think we've been highly successful at selecting chancellors despite the current policy that we have in place. I do think that this has been in the works since 2011, and so the reconciliation has to be, do we consider the timing from the perspective of equilibrium versus the fact that we currently have a full-strength bench of chancellors. As I looked at the policy in anticipation of the meeting, I do think it improves communication. I think it frankly improves Regent involvement. I think it's implied that when you're on a selection committee that you visit the campus, that you meet with the faculty, you meet with senior staff, but this really increases that. I think that's important. I think it makes us more crisp. I think it gets us closer to where other competitive states sit. And I frankly appreciate that our student regent spoke eloquently about how this maintains that student voice. So again, I just appreciate the ability to make comments having not been on the committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any other member of the committee? Yes.
The committee? I'm not on the committee.
Oh, no, yeah, Regent Delgado. I mean, I'm sorry. No, I meant Regent Vasquez.
Regent Jose. Which one? We're a very complex organization, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's unwieldy, unmanageable, and just difficult to understand. We're just complex and we're big. Let's face it, deal with that. And I think in a situation like that, we're always going to be confronted at times with issues that we wish and we hope that there was the perfect time that we could have that discussion. I just don't see too many instances where a system like ours is able to have that luxury of saying, you know, everything else is put to bed, everything's to rest. Now let's spend all the time that we can. I have to compliment the Regents, because I think we do try to have the time set aside. You know, we've done the one-day in-depth discussion, so we try to manage as best as we can. My interest in this particular resolution had more to do with really external and timeline. And external, I mean, I have heard from many individuals that have been from the community. We invite community representatives to sit on the local chancellor search and screen committees. And quite honestly, there are lots of people out there that are very unhappy that they accepted the invitation to sit on the local Regent search and screen committee. Things that I have heard from them is that I went, I sat down, and it was very clear that I was window dressing, that people were not really taking my, as a community representative, serious, that this was more of an internal group work. And many of them would tell me, I stopped attending after a while, because it was clear that it wasn't, you know, I was there, I thought I knew what I was there for, but pretty soon it became clear it didn't matter why I was there. And so that concerns me. It concerns me in this way, and I think it's a theme that we've been talking about. If you're going to invite somebody to the party, have them be part of the party. Don't just invite them and then put them in the next room and then have all your nice chit-chat everywhere else and then occasionally bring them back out. That's not good. And so I think it would be good that if we are going to continue this process of genuine inclusiveness, then let's really be inclusive and have people there and give them all an opportunity to be meaningfully engaged. The other concern that also, and I know it's not exactly addressed in here in that detail, was also the length of time that it has taken to make the appointments. And I would urge that as this goes on, that we have some continued discussion on how do we work through that. It's a very busy system, all of our campuses. And I think that this presents an opportunity to look at how can we do things in some instances different, in some instances more in depth, that will allow us to be able to show that we are genuine about getting input, about trying to move things in an expeditious way so that we can continue to have the right leadership. I would hope that this could present one of those opportunities that I've been talking about, and that is meaningful dialogue. The resolution will pass, I think. I'm pretty convinced it will. But I would ask that the President's office and others that are going to move forward to continue this, that you continue to have dialogue with faculty and academic staff and students to say, how do we make this work in a very meaningful way? We're not trying to ace you out. We're not trying to push you out. But there may be a need for some changes to occur. So again, my interest, interestingly, had far more with the external individuals that we invite that, unfortunately, I think we need to go back to, and if we're going to continue to invite people from the outside, let's really make it a meaningful experience for them.
Thank you, Jose, and I will just speak to your comment. One of the reasons that the timing is happening now is we do have a full complement of chancellors. We hope that it is years before we have to choose any new chancellors, but we do have the time to do the kinds of work with the campuses that you're talking about. And clearly, Regent Bailing asked, and his primary question I did not answer, which is how we compare to other institutions. In our research went further than simply size. Our research shows that we are the most separated and siloed, that there are institutions, both public and private, They don't tend to be systems, but there are major institutions where only the regents do the selection. Do we think that's a good idea? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. More typically in systems, you have what we are describing, only instead of one region as being part of the search and screen committee, there are 2, 3, or more. So that is not, this is not an unusual configuration of both the search and screen. And if you think about it, I had the opportunity, I'll make a personal comment. I had the opportunity to chair the Search and Screen Committee for the President, President Cross. We had representation from faculty, from academic staff, from classified staff, from students all over the system, all over the system. It was a wonderful opportunity to be able to communicate with them what we viewed as the needs of a president of the system, and for them to communicate back to us. And also it was an opportunity for us in turn, the selection committee in turn, to have a clear understanding of what the search and screen committee discussed. So that was a very useful example of what we can do with this. But clearly what we want to do is work with the campuses for the important protocols, which will also involve timing. So that's what one of the major things that our consultants tell us is timing is critical in the market. It's been 40 years. The world has changed. Our campuses have changed. Close your eyes and imagine UW-Milwaukee 42 years ago. And think what it is today, and think what its leadership was then, and think what its leadership needs are now. Yes, Regent Whippert?
I would move adoption of Resolution 12D.
Second.
All right, any more discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
All right, let's move on. Thank you very much. That completes your report? All right, now I call upon Regent Delgado, Vice Chair of the Capital Planning and Budget, to present a report of the actions taken by the Capital Planning and Budget Committee. Regent Delgado?
Yeah, thanks for the promotion to chair. I'm the vice chair, but don't worry about it. President Milner.
More in your paycheck.
Oh, yeah, the paycheck. So, we approved 6 resolutions yesterday, and these are all building resolutions. What I want to do is I want to just go through the resolutions very briefly, and I would appreciate if we can bundle them all. They're all very necessary, but I don't think it's, we will discuss it ad nauseum if you want to. And I think the members of the committee, we can explain them or at least fake it. And then the fact is that it's very necessary. But anyways, it goes like this. The first one is 3C, brought by UW-Milwaukee, requesting approval to amend the lease of the Priory, a building, and to allow for construction and some improvements that are necessary in the building to make it more useful. Resolution 3D, brought by UW Extension, requesting authority to construct Lowell Hall, South Wing, to improve the air conditioning, elevators, and some rooms. Looked like a very, very justified project to us. Resolution 3E, brought by La Crosse, requesting authority to construct a storage facility project which will provide a single-story addition, and they will move mail and other stuff there from places that have a better use. Item 3F, brought by Oshkosh, requesting authority to construct the Reeve Union entrance, and I found out that this building has some very significant emotional attachment to some, oh, he's not here. I'm wasting my to one of our regions, but anyways, I'm sorry, I'm just quipping. And we're going to improve the entrance and remodeling project. We'll construct about 8,000 square feet and do much that have to do with security and the appearance. Item 3G, brought by UW Oshkosh, requesting authority to construct the Fletcher Hall renovation, an additional project which will remodel a very large existing facility, replacing a lot of the infrastructure. Resolution 3A is brought by UW System requesting approval of 5 agency maintenance, and that's a whole variety of maintenance projects which are necessary. I move approval of these resolutions.
Second. All right. Are there any questions or discussions? All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Now we switch gears.
I think that was pretty much the content of our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. We're switching gears. And we're switching gears to this morning we're going to talk about better preparation of graduates and more specifically high-impact practices. There's been a lot of talk about high-impact practices. Sometimes it's called HIPS. I didn't know that. Sometimes that's called HIPS on the national scene. HIPS have been on the national scene for years. As some describe it, high-impact learning occurs where students are actively engaged in educational process and when their learning goes beyond the classroom to be applied in their personal and work lives. Examples of high-impact practices include first-year seminars, learning communities, write-intensive courses, collaborative assignments, undergraduate research, service learning, internships, diversity and global learning, parenthood, there are a lot of them. All practices that we are pursuing, well, at the UW, I don't think we're practicing parenthood. I shouldn't digress from the script, sorry. Recent research is providing convincing evidence that these kinds of learning practices are significant factors in student success, improving retention and graduation rate, narrowing achievement gap, shortening time to degree. These are all top priorities in the UW system and for this board. So we are eager to learn more. Here to lead our discussion this morning is Senior Vice President David J. Ward. David?
Thank you very much. Well, this morning we're going to talk about high-impact practices, or HIPS, that are really changing the face of education, undergraduate education especially. This is the third in a series of presentations we've made to you, so if I can just sort of connect the dots. You heard a presentation on instructional technology a number of months ago. Then followed by a library and information, and now this presentation on student engagement. They all illustrate two key points. The first, which I try to drill in every meeting that we have, is the changing nature of faculty work. Because as these high-impact practices, for example, are implemented, what faculty have to do changes dramatically from the old chalkboard lecture type of format. Secondly, it changes the entire learning experience for our students. We were fortunate this morning in the student spotlight to have a preliminary look at that as David talked about his research in Panama. That is one of the high-impact practices, so it sets up our discussion very nicely. Very briefly, I'll go over these points as we're about to introduce our panels here to talk about particularly the Purdue Gallup poll and sort of some context. You may have read some of this, but President Mitch Daniels at Purdue and Gallup teamed up really for the purpose of trying to discover what was valuable about a college education. You know, that's always in the headlines. Does it pay to get a college education? And usually it's answered in terms of what the earnings are going to be down the road, and that's a considerable advantage. But what Purdue and Gallup, funded by Lumina, looked at was what was the outcome or output of a college degree in terms of engagement later in life, and whether or not students were thriving in life, meaning was their personal life satisfying? Were they engaged in work? Did they have a social engagement that was satisfying? So this poll looked at 30,000 students, 30,000 graduates of universities. Here are some of the findings, and you can go online and read more about this if you're interested. The type of institution a student attended mattered less than the experience there. Think about that. The type of institution mattered less than the experience they achieved at their respective university. High-impact practices, or HIPs, affected outcomes. Students who had engaged in the research such as David has engaged in had higher GPAs, higher retention rates, and higher graduation rates. And the unfortunate thing is that of that 30,000 surveyed, which went back, several decades, a very low percentage of students had actually had the experience of being in a HIP type of activity. So these are some of the things Regent Milner indicated that are high-impact practices. Learning communities, faculty-student research, again referring to David's experience, internships, first-year and senior capstone projects, global learning, including travel abroad, or in David's case, he not only got research, but he also got some international or global experience. There are other of these HIPs that are there. So we know that students who get one of these high-impact practice experiences are more likely to report about deep learning, have higher overall engagement, and satisfaction in their lives. Here's a brief look at UW institutions with a little bit of a time element in there so you can see the progress that has been made in terms of increasing this experience for our students. And by the way, you might remember a few meetings ago I handed out to all the board members the graduation rates in the UW system over 20 or 25 years. I did that because at the time someone had made the claim, I can't remember if it was in the legislature or where it was, that graduation rates were declining. In fact, they're rising and rising markedly. I would draw a linkage between what's happening here, high-impact practices, and the retention rates, which are also rising, and graduation rates at UW institutions. So you can look at this. The learning communities, about 19% of our first-year students now experience that. It's above the national average. A little under on the service learning, but fairly close. Research with faculty is still fairly low, but about the national average. And if you look at seniors, you can look at those statistics as well. We also have some comparison for our two-year institutions at UW colleges as to whether they're experiencing, for example, some engagement in learning communities and service learning. These numbers compare very favorably with other two-year colleges. So it is happening at all of our institutions. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to the experts in this area, the people on the campuses. And please understand that every campus is engaged in these, but you have to pick some people to speak. And we have two of our provosts here to lead the discussion, Greg Summers from UW-Stevens Point and Lane Ernst from UW-Oshkosh. So I'll start with Greg and ask him to introduce his guests and proceed with his presentation.
Thank you very much, David, and good morning, Regents. It's an honor to be here, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk about student engagement at UW-Stevens Point. There are two practices that we're especially proud of at Stevens Point, and those are our undergraduate research effort and our brand new first-year seminar program, which is part of a new, larger general education program that we launched in the fall of 2013. Now, we've been doing undergraduate research for a very long time at UW-Stevens Point, but I think what's new in recent years is that we're trying to be much more purposeful and intentional about how we do it, how we structure it. And particularly, we're trying to broaden access to those experiences. to a much larger segment of our population and really the entire student body by building these experiences into our new general education program, for example. And we're convinced, as you saw in the student spotlight this morning, a very vivid example, that these experiences can be transformational for students. They really do help our students to learn more successfully. You're going to hear from one of our students in just a little bit. Elizabeth Parks is here with me. She's a brand new graduate of UW-Stevens Point, graduated this past May from our psychology program. She's going to be talking about her experiences in undergraduate research. And Lisa Theo, who is a staff member, an instructor of geography, and also our undergraduate research coordinator, she's going to be talking about our first-year seminar program. But before we do that, I wanted to share just a little bit of data with you, some of our preliminary analysis about why we think these experiences are so important to students. Now, I want to emphasize we're just beginning to track this comprehensively as a campus, so what you're going to see this morning are some promising numbers, but they're not at all conclusive. And so, as I said, we're just kind of beginning this effort to analyze this and hoping to reproduce some of the national trends that David alluded to. We've looked at participants in undergraduate research by focusing on students who have presented their findings either locally at a campus symposia. Each of our colleges runs an undergraduate research symposium every year. Or many times our students receive funding from Lisa's office to travel to conferences in the state or nationally to present their findings, often with faculty members. And you see some higher levels of academic performance, as David alluded to. Students who participate in undergraduate research tend to have higher grade point averages. They tend to graduate more quickly. But what you're also going to notice is there's probably some self-selecting going on in the way that our current undergraduate research program is structured. The ACTs in particular, if you look at that column, the students who tend to gravitate toward presenting research also come into the university with higher ACT numbers. So this highlights the need to broaden access to those kinds of experiences for our students. We really are trying, through our general education program, to build those things in so that every single student at Stevens Point gets these experiences. We're doing that at the front end through our first-year seminar. That's not necessarily an undergraduate research course, but we're really working hard with faculty to try and build research experiences into those courses so our students are doing research as they walk in the door. And then, in particular, our capstone experience in the major. That's a required experience for every single student now at Stevens Point. So as they leave, we want them to do a comprehensive research-based project because we do believe that these experiences are so important. The other thing that we're trying to do is we're trying to track equity in these experiences, and so we're working hard to disaggregate the numbers that we're looking at by gender, race, and ethnicity. And again, this is just a beginning analysis. But we've looked at participation in undergraduate research among women and students of color, and we found happily that there is no equity gap in participation that we can identify, so that students are participating in those subcategories in roughly the same percentage as they are in the demographic makeup of our class. But we do know that we do have some identified equity gaps in student performance, student success, and so that's another reason why we're trying to make these experiences more comprehensive and to improve access, because we know from national data that undergraduate research and other high-impact practices actually work to close those equity gaps in student performance. And so that's an important thing that we're working on. Finally, one of the variables that we've long been proud of at UW-Stevens Point is the number of graduates that we send off to PhD programs, particularly in the STEM fields. At UW-Stevens Point, we send more of our graduates on to become PhDs in STEM than any other UW comprehensive, and that's a clear hallmark of student success at Stevens Point, but also the strength of our programs, and particularly the research experiences that students are getting along the way, because that's one of the variables that these graduate programs are clearly looking at. They want to, as they matriculate students, they're looking to find students who are scholars themselves as they walk into those graduate programs, and so research is a clear component there. Lastly, I want to just emphasize that we're working hard to ensure that undergraduate research isn't just a STEM component. I'm a historian, so I'm a little bit biased here, but undergraduate research, as you see from this data, has a really important impact on academic success across the disciplines. In the arts, the sciences, the social sciences, we see the same kind of impact to academic success as you see in STEM, and it's again points to the need to broaden these experiences, to broaden access to this kind of educational opportunity for students. So now it's my pleasure to turn it over to Elizabeth Parks.
Hi. My name is Elizabeth Parks, and I graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point in May of 2015. From UW-Stevens Point, I gained my degree with a psychology major, human service emphasis, and a sociology minor. During my undergraduate degree, I gained a cumulative 15 credits worth of independent research. These research experiences began during my sophomore year when I applied and was accepted into Dr. Mark Ferguson's Social Identity Research Lab. This lab primarily focuses on topics related to identity, prejudice, and emotions. During my junior year, I was asked to join 2 additional psychology research labs. Over time, I became the senior lab assistant in these labs and developed a wide range of research-related and management-related skills. I became proficient in conducting literature reviews, designing and conducting studies, analyzing data, and even had the opportunity to present 3 separate research studies at the annual, at the annual American Psychological Association in Washington, D.C. during the summer of 2014. I also presented at the UW System Symposium, which took place in this room, and also at the Capitol for Posters in the Rotunda. Due to my research experiences at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point, I had the experience of gaining a research-focused internship at New York University. My experience at NYU allowed me to develop a more sophisticated understanding of physiological measures, such as electrocardiographs, and how these measures are implemented into psychophysiological research. Due to gaining hands-on experience in my field of study, I went from a 3.0 student to a 4.0 student, and due to my better understanding of my psychology major. Through these experiences, I was able to determine my future career objective of being a professor of psychology and working at a research-based institution. One of my main research studies that I worked on for the last 2 years involved working with student veterans. This study was titled Barriers to the Academic Achievement of Student Veterans, and was led by Dr. Thomas Modell of UW-Stevens Point Psychology Department. This study was a qualitative study that entailed interviewing a number of student veterans on their current academic experiences. Through this research, we discovered 5 main themes on where student veterans struggled academically. These are the transition as a prolonged process, unrealistic expectations, adjustment to the collegiate educational atmosphere, inefficient academic skills, and lack of structure and accountability. From these themes, we have the intent of creating a quantitative study in order to run statistical analyses in order to determine what programs could be used to improve the academic for student veterans, which Dr. Lisa Thea will be talking more about what we do on our campus. Thank you.
Good morning. I want to introduce the first-year seminar program to you, but I also want to let you know I also teach in the first-year seminar program along with being the undergraduate research coordinator. UW-Stevens Point piloted our first-year seminar program during the spring semester of 2011, and it became part of our general education program effective with the fall 2013 semester. First-year seminars are offered to first-year students to introduce critical thinking skills, orient students to the academic community and the campus life, and to equip them with the skills necessary to be successful students. The first-year seminar is also intended to foster students' intellectual curiosity and help them begin the process of taking responsibility for their education, their career choices, and their personal development. Our classes are limited to 20 students, helping to facilitate connections between the students and the instructor. This small class size also allows the instructor to identify students who might need a bit more attention in order to be successful at the college level. This cohort approach helps students develop a sense of community, or the idea that we are in this together. There is a rigorous application process for instructors. If selected, instructors are required to attend training workshops on how to effectively teach critical thinking, time management, and study skills. Course topics include the science of your house, raising your wellness bar, philosophy and popular culture, the band that changed the world, about the Beatles, violence in American society, viewing the world through sports, exploring ethics, what inspires you, and are numbers real? And my personal favorite, Battlestar Galactica and the creation of culture. Instructors come from many departments and units across our campus, including forestry, health promotion and wellness, philosophy and religious studies, history, sociology, psychology, biology, and mathematics, and many more. We also have athletic coaches teaching these courses and staff from the Business Affairs Office. As we just heard from Lizbeth, our student veterans face special challenges transitioning to the university community. We have a first-year seminar just for them, taught by Professor Dave Krissinger, an associate lecturer in history and computer and new media technologies. Students in Back from the Front study the history of trauma and coming home from war. This course helps veterans make the difficult transition from the military to civilian life by building a community of support. The academic content included guest speakers from a variety of governmental organizations and nonprofits that serve veterans or help veterans transition from the military to civilian life. This included the Portage County Veterans Services Office, the Wausau Vet Center, the Mission Continues, Team Red, White, and Blue, Team Rubicon, Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, the Veteran Print Project, Military Experience in the Arts, and Veterans Outdoor World. Students were also required to read the book The Long Walk, A Story of War and the Life That Follows by Brian Kastner. Instructor Krissinger arranged for the author to visit the class and to give a campus and community presentation as well. Another critical part of the course was collaborating with a computer and new media technologies class to develop a web page for student veterans. They have published dozens of essays written by students, many of whom report feeling much more connected to their friends, families, and communities after sharing their stories. The first-year seminar students also collaborated with students in an advanced printmaking class and the Veteran Print Project. The class members created art based on the veteran stories. These prints will go on display at both the UW-Stevens Point and the Kenosha Public Museum. And the slide up there demonstrates on the left-hand side is just a screen capture of the first page of their web page, and it's a really wonderful site where they have daily posts from student veterans in there, and those are just 3 of the sample print projects from the students. I'd like to share some comments right now from some of the class members. Quote, "If I see someone struggling with the same kinds of problems I struggled with, I'd be empathetic. But I would also tell that person that the answer will not come from the VA. It won't come from Congress. Every veteran has to make a decision. They have to wake up one day and say that this happened to me, it happened. I'm going to learn from it, from all of it, and I'm not going to let it define me or my future," unquote. Another, quote, "The first-year seminar class was a pretty helpful class for me. I was pretty shy and socially anxious for whatever reason. This class helped me open up and tell some of my stories I've been holding in as well. This class allowed me to push myself mentally and to get over the barrier that was holding me back," unquote. And finally, the quote, "The most beneficial aspects were feeling like a person whose opinion mattered again, and learning how to cope with and move past the things I carry from combat. Since taking this class, I've been able to help several other guys from my platoon overcome their issues," unquote. The Back from the Front first-year seminar course incorporated undergraduate research elements through the collaborations with computer and new media technologies and also with the printmaking course. Our campus is committed to these and other high-impact practices because our students truly do benefit from these experiences. UW-Stevens Point is expecting an incoming first-year class of around or just over 1,700 students in the fall, and we have right now 30 first-year seminar courses on the books, and since we limit our enrollment to 20 each, so we have a more effective class, we can only offer a first-year seminar class to 600 of these new incoming students. This is a problem when we have something so significant, something that's really changing lives. And as you know, with undergraduate research, there are certain faculty on campus that choose to participate in this. We'd like to get more. We want to, as the provost mentioned, expand to other disciplines. But some of them will need training in order to do that. So the resources are important. We need more people. We need, as you hear over and over again, more people, more time, more money. But thank you so much.
Good morning. I think it's probably a good idea with all the tension hovering over us today to remind ourselves what we're here for, and that's enhancing student success, and to show some examples of this today. I will also talk about two high-impact practices. The first, what we call STEP. We've had it in place for 5 years now. It's a Student Titan Employment Program. It's provided over 1,500 students with employment opportunities focused on applied learning in disciplinary areas under the guidance of a faculty mentor. Students work with faculty members on a variety of applied projects aligned to the university's essential learning outcomes and their academic majors. These on-campus internships allow students to demonstrate their professional knowledge and skill development in authentic work experiences as they transition from campus to careers or graduate studies. Recent STEP projects included audit interns, event coordinators, pigment chemists, laboratory assistants, writers and content producers, market and social media assistants, technological interns, personal trainers, social media interns, graphic designers, and campus relations ambassadors. Student achievement as measured in STEP surveys shows that 85% of STEP students achieved a rating of proficient or above in critical and creative thinking. 80% of the students achieved a rating of proficient or above in problem solving, leadership, and teamwork. And 71% of students achieved a rating of proficient or above in advanced learning through application of skills and knowledge. I'm now going to show a short clip featuring two students, Josh and Morgan.
My mentor is a professor in the University Studies program. She teaches her students about the power of storytelling. The students produce the Humans Oshkosh Facebook page. My job was to tell the story of the student storytellers. As a STEP intern, I got to work side by side with my mentor, who has pretty high standards. I learned to work under extreme deadlines, and I would deliver her rough cuts, only to have her say, no, not good enough, and send me back to do better. Thanks to STEP, I was able to produce 2 videos for the Humans Oshkosh storytelling project. I was able to think on my feet and be creative. I'm very proud of these 2 videos, and the experience that I've gained from this internship will help me now and after I graduate.
As a STEP intern, I got to do real-world journalism as a student. I was the assistant features editor for Endeavors, a magazine out of the provost's office that features the research and teaching accomplishments of faculty at UW-Oshkosh. As a STEP intern, I learned to be persistent. It's really hard to get these busy professors to sit down for an interview or 2, much less a photo. I also learned that good writing is rewriting, and lots of rewriting, or sometimes even starting over. Through my STEP internship, I became a better writer and communicator. I also have a body of professional quality work I can take with me after I graduate. I'll also be able to put on my resume skills that I would not have been able to put on had I not been a STEP intern.
At this point, I'd like to introduce Angela Ebel, sitting next to me, a junior at UW-Oshkosh. She has agreed to join us this morning. She's from Shawano, major in human resources and economics. As a first-generation student working with student support services, she has been involved in both first-year scholars and future young professionals. In addition, she has been a peer mentor for the University Studies program and a STEP student for our University Studies program in the Center for Teaching and Learning. This summer she will be a peer mentor for the Titan Advantage program, which is our summer bridge program. Angela?
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for inviting me to tell you why I wanted to become a STEP student, what I do in my position, and how having this position will help me in my future career. As a STEP student with the University Studies program, I serve as a student ambassador to help explain the program and work with other students in their role as peer mentors. I was interested in this position because of my own experience with the USP, both as a student and a peer mentor. My STEP position has public speaking opportunities to help me now and in the future. This position was also more appealing to me because of the relatable experiences it entailed and the convenience of working on campus. As a STEP student, I have had many public speaking opportunities, such as presenting to all of you today. I have also had the opportunity to present to students visiting campus and transfer students. Because I have been given these opportunities, I find myself more confident in what I have to say and no longer fear in-class presentations, speeches, or other coursework that requires being in front of small or large groups. This is very important because the only way to become comfortable with public speaking is with experience, which I would not have had if it weren't for my STEP program. Another relevant experience I have had involves the recruitment, selection, and training of USP peer mentors. This process has given me insight into some human resource responsibilities. While recruiting peer mentors, I was able to go to the student union and discuss the responsibilities and requirements of being a peer mentor with fellow students. This informal presentation allowed me to encourage students to apply to be peer mentors and discuss the importance of having a leadership opportunity on campus and the difference you can make to first-year students. While interviewing peer mentor candidates, I was able to evaluate and discuss with fellow interviewers what they like to look for in answers to interview questions. This is important to my future career because knowing some tips and tricks other professionals use for interviewing can help develop the necessary skills for selecting qualified candidates. This position has allowed me to work with a variety of influential people. Their impact on how I view my education and future plans has helped me consider other career paths. I believe you do not completely understand someone's job until you experience it firsthand. Seeing the difference an academic advisor can make has opened my eyes to considering going to graduate school and one day working in higher education. I do not think I would have ever considered being an academic advisor without the exposure to this position. I am only one of many STEP students on the UW-Oshkosh campus. All the opportunities and insights I have been given are also possible for other students through the STEP program. This program has helped me and other students on campus develop the skills necessary as both a student and in our future careers. We do this while at the same time helping the campus we love. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. And now I would like, if I can get the equipment to work, to move on to our second presentation, which concerns what we call Quest 3. Let's see. There we go. Okay. As many of you know, since I've presented a few times here on our University Studies program, it's a major campus initiative designed to provide quality educational experience for all of our students, as well as a way to increase retention and graduation rates. The curriculum reform initiative resulting in the creation of the University Studies program was guided by principles of inclusive excellence and engages the entire university community. Additionally, the program design encourages students to connect knowledge with choices and actions and to foster civic, intercultural, and ethical learning. The program's conceptual framework includes the major themes of civic learning, sustainability, and intercultural learning. The USP is infused with high-impact practices and pedagogies of engagement designed to prepare students for the challenges of the 21st century. One of the high-impact practices is embedded in the Quest 3 course that all students take in their sophomore year. During Quest 3, students are introduced to civic action, community partners, and real-world challenges while completing a campus or community experience related to one of the signature questions in the USP. The project, encompassing 14 to 20 hours of experiential learning as part of the course, is intended to prepare and motivate students for further, more substantive civic learning in both their major and beyond. The Community Experience Project may range from service with an on-campus student organization to a weekend with an area nonprofit agency to an alternative spring break experience. Types of community partners in Quest 3 are businesses, nonprofit organizations, civic associations, public schools, colleges and universities, health and human service organizations, government organizations, and UW-Oshkosh campus organizations. An alumni mentor is assigned to the community engagement portion of each Quest 3 course. These mentors enhance the student's connection to the community through on- and off-campus outreach projects and service opportunities. Okay, let's look at another video.
We've made a strong commitment to civic engagement at UW-Oshkosh, and one of the ways that we've illustrated that commitment is through our Quest 3 courses that are part of the University Studies program, which is general education. We're ensuring that every sophomore student has a chance to get out into the community and put what they're learning in the classroom to use. And this is a powerful, high-impact practice that other courses just can't match. Quest 3 courses are designed to work with community partners in the Oshkosh community so that the course content and the hands-on experience in the community are mutually reinforcing and mutually beneficial. We're setting our students up through these courses to be lifelong contributors no matter where they eventually live. As a Quest 3 instructor myself, I've seen what these courses can do for students. They are transformative. Students can't help but look at the world differently when they've seen it through an academic lens and then through the lens of their own backyards.
The Quest 3 students are helping us with a physical education course that we do adaptively for special needs children in the Neenah Joint School District. So kids are bused here, and then we put them on horses and do physical activities on and off the horses.
Mostly we work with the horses. That's their physical education program here. We do various things like help them focus on their balance, like do this, or focus on motor skills. It's been a very great experience. I love it a lot. Definitely working with all the kids and getting to know them is definitely the best part.
The benefits of interacting with a group that's different than yourself, different than what you're accustomed with, is it makes you step back and look at, I think, what's important. And many times I have said I don't know who gets more out of it, the people that we serve or the people that volunteer. So my hope in partnering with particularly college-age kids is to spark their interest in doing something that benefits someone else instead of just themselves. But in doing that, you do get a benefit for yourself. It's intangible, but it absolutely is there.
The program that we're here with is the Lighted Schoolhouse. They're working with the Quest 3 program for UW-Oshkosh to teach kids about culture and how culture has evolved through the years and how kids can learn to experience culture here and wherever they are in our area. The projects that we're working on here in class are directly related to our studies of how culture is presented through the arts.
Being familiar with other cultures, other societies, other ethnic groups, racial groups, all that stuff is really important to have like a holistic understanding of people and the world.
I think I'm just trying to keep them to have an open mind. I mean, everyone comes from some other place. Everyone has their own background, and just accept people kind of for who they are and not to be judgmental or anything like that.
I had this idea that the students would gather information from seniors, local seniors, and we would take that information and make a map of Oshkosh unlike no other, a personal experience map, in a way that the students could both tell the stories of people who have lived here as well as, make a beautiful document and something that I think will speak to the history of Oshkosh in a totally different way.
My partner was Lizzie, and we worked with Sally on the first day to make a map of kind of her life experience in Oshkosh. Well, I've learned a lot about Oshkosh and its history, which is really cool since I'm not from around here, and just hearing about Sally's life was really awesome.
It was so much fun when we went to the senior center. I was so proud of the students. They were so kind of
shy and not quite sure about how this was going to go the first day, and the second day they were like pros.
I think every time you bring together groups of people who wouldn't normally be together, magic things happen. I think that's a big problem today is where we're in these groups and we think of people as the other. The more you talk to somebody, the more you understand about the world and about Oshkosh and about your community, and the more you care about it.
When we're that age, we have to realize, like, what kind of world do we want to leave behind? And I think that's really important because these people, like, they've made Oshkosh like what it is today, and like, how do we want to leave Oshkosh when we leave?
You know, we're going to do just fine in this next generation. We're cultivating such a good group of students and population to move forward.
Thank you.
Questions? Would you help me thank the panel for their presentation? Three brief summary points that I thought I'd leave you with, and then see if you have any questions. The first is sort of, I always reduce things either to a graph or an equation. So my new equation is HIPs equal better outcomes. And you saw that here in terms of grade point average and graduation and some of the testimony that you heard this morning. The second, which is an overriding thing that I think we need to continually tell the story, is change. We are seeing change. We often hear people talk about the university, well, it never changes, you know. It's changed dramatically. We've illustrated that with instructional technology, with the library, and now in this student engagement. The final, very important point, I know you're all considering that in your deliberations in the last day or two, but you notice when David gave his testimony about his work in Panama, he mentioned a faculty member. So in my first run through as a senior vice president, which was a long time ago, one of the things I would do when I went out to campuses and met alums is say, what do you remember about UW-Eau Claire or UW-Parkside? The answer was always the same. Not a thing. They couldn't remember who the chancellor was to save their life. They couldn't remember who the president of the system was. But what they remembered was 3 faculty members, almost consistently. These 3 people made a difference. So remember that as you're thinking about all of the things that are important about the university. Are there any questions? If not, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, David, and thank you very much to the panel. Times have changed dramatically. At this time, we will get an opportunity to remind ourselves of the outstanding work done by academic staff across the UW system. This morning, we are honored to have with us some special guests, the recipients of the 2015 Regent Academic Staff Awards for Excellence. There are more than 14,000 academic staff throughout the UW system, the university's largest sector of employees. To lead us in our award presentation, let me turn things over to Regent Jan Mueller, Chair of the Awards Selection Committee. Jan?
Thank you. Good morning. We welcome here today the winners of this year's Regents Academic Staff Excellence Awards. With these awards, the Board of Regents salutes the hard work, dedication, and innovative thinking of our talented academic staff members. Their outstanding work helps to strengthen and invigorate not only our UW institutions, but those in the communities in which they serve. Chairing the selection committee was particularly gratifying for me because I too was a staff person during my career serving in various roles. But it was also very challenging because of the quality of the applicants and the supporting materials that were submitted on their behalf. I greatly appreciate the time and effort of my fellow members of the selection committee and wish to sincerely thank Regents Eve Hall, Tim Higgins, and Drew Peterson for their dedication to this effort. Their input and insights enabled us to select the most deserving recipients of this honor this year. Before we present the awards, I'd like to point out that the profiles of each of our award winners have been placed in your folders and on the Board of Regents website, and I encourage you to read them. My colleagues on the Regents Selection Committee have the honor of introducing each of the award recipients, and each recipient then will have the opportunity to address us from the podium. Thank you again. Regent Higgins will present our first award.
It is my pleasure to introduce this year's first award winner, Jean Clark, Coastal Engineering Specialist with the UW Sea Grant Institute, a program headquartered at UW-Madison that has far-reaching statewide impact. Jean, who is based at UW-Superior, is one of the few full-time Sea Grant coastal engineering specialists in the country. He provides engineering expertise as well as port and marina assistance to government officials, to contractors and lakeshore property owners in all Wisconsin coastal counties, including those along Lake Michigan. Gene is especially proud that his unique background can help fulfill the tenets of the Wisconsin idea and extend it from beyond the boundaries of the state to the shores of the Great Lakes. Gene has a long history of providing safety education to those who enjoy our Great Lakes. Coastal tourism in this state is worth $5 billion annually, and many of those tourism dollars are spent by those who enjoy a day swimming at the beach, sailing, or kayaking. Because of Gene's efforts, swimmers are more aware of the dangers of riptides in Lake Michigan, and kayakers have access to real-time conditions for Lake Superior. His work is saving lives. His work is also building economic vitality. He has saved, by a conservative estimate, $125 million in disposable costs of harbor-dredged material by directing it to beach nourishment rather than high-cost disposal facilities. And one of his long-term projects, helping to preserve the bustling port of Duluth Superior from mysterious and rapid disintegration, recently received national recognition. Each year, Gene does a lot of outreach through consultations, workshops, and professional presentations. To help those he can't meet in person, he shares his knowledge through papers and publications on topics such as beach safety and clean marinas used by Great Lakes property owners. For example, a couple living on Madeline Island who requested Gene's help had this to say about our award winner. Gene Clark addressed our problem with scientific method and astute observation skills. Not only did he make his coastal engineering survey, but he also was a constant resource for us. He was thorough, thoughtful, and exemplary in his professionalism. Please welcome our first Academic Staff Excellent Award winner, Gene Clark of the UW Sea Grant Institute.
Well, thank you very much. The hard part's done. I've been asked to talk a bit about my perspectives on what it takes to be an outstanding University of Wisconsin staff member. But really, to do that, I'd like to share with you why the UW Aquatic Sciences Center, of which Sea Grant is a part of, that I work for, is an outstanding program to work for. You'll see why our work environment leads to developing outstanding employees. The Aquatic Sciences Center strongly embraces the Wisconsin idea and makes certain its employees, such as me, do so as well. It starts with our director, Dr. James Hurley, and our assistant directors, especially my supervisor, Dr. David Hart. As we prepare our specialty area four-year work plans, they consistently ask us, are these work tasks relevant to Wisconsin issues, and can we make an impact with our efforts? They also ask, what are the chances that your research and or extension work will provide sound scientific results which will be useful for our partners and collaborators? If so, they're typically in our work plans. Since we can't anticipate what comes along in 4 years in advance, we often are allowed to deviate from those four-year work plans when unexpected new issues or problems come up that we believe we can turn into opportunities. Opportunities to provide relevant UW research, extension, and possibly direct applications to help solve those issues. Our director and assistant directors understand that we'll never bat 1,000. We strike out sometimes. I've struck out a lot. But every once in a while, we connect on some. And when we do, the results are positive University of Wisconsin research to direct application impacts. And you've heard some examples of mine in the introduction. However, it doesn't stop there. Alongside us is our Assistant Director for Communications, Moira Harrington, who, with her communications staff, ensure that our results are quickly disseminated to our Wisconsin partners, appropriate businesses that can use the technology, and many other Wisconsin user groups. If our impacts can be applied to a wider audience, they are forwarded to our Great Lakes Sea Grant Network partners, or even nationally or internationally, as evidenced by our director's University of Wisconsin research leadership concerning the spread of mercury worldwide. While I'm being recognized today for my efforts in providing sound University of Wisconsin science research and extension to applications, actually any one of the Aquatic Sciences Center employees' names could be on that plaque. I'll finish by saying I'm extremely humbled to receive this very prestigious award, and thank you for recognizing some of my accomplishments and those of my partners at the UW Aquatic Sciences Services Center. I am extremely honored to be able to represent the University of Wisconsin with my work, and again, thank you again for this award.
Our second individual award winner today is Jennifer Elselser, who is Assistant Director with Counseling Services at the University of Wisconsin River Falls. Jennifer has been a tireless advocate for health and wellness at UW River Falls. Adjectives used to describe her include energetic, supportive, and relational, because she is so good at building rapport with students, faculty, staff, and parents in a short amount of time. Allow me to briefly mention some of the projects that Jennifer has developed. These include a triage intake system for counseling services that minimizes student wait times, helps prioritize more serious issues, and matches students with counselor areas of expertise. An online wellness assessment tool, which Jennifer developed in collaboration with the Campus Department of Technology Services. Free weekly wellness sessions such as yoga, tai chi, Zumba, and meditation. Jennifer even became certified in yoga instruction so that she could teach some classes herself. Pet therapy sessions, that was unique. Highly popular events that provide some canine comfort to students. And annual events such as an autumn wellness fair called WellCheck and a springtime de-stress fest to help students cope with pressures of final exams. Did I mention Jennifer is tireless? She also co-developed the iRock program, an education series for students living on campus that helps promote wellness on a variety of topics, such as healthy relationships, stress management, fitness, nutrition, and career and academic development. For this program, she received the Chancellor's Award for Program of the Year. It is no surprise that students can find themselves under a great deal of pressure, whether from handling academic expectations, navigating relationships, or juggling financial or family worries. Jennifer continually looks for ways to provide skillful, compassionate survival tools for students. One colleague put it this way: serving as a mental health counselor is a challenging and difficult role, but Jennifer manages this role by being a highly skilled and caring therapist who is able to listen hourly and daily to the very difficult and often heart-wrenching stories that our students share. We felt this was a very important award because of so many of the tragedies that have been occurring over the years on our campuses. And so we know that mental health, just handling the everyday stress, that is really critical. So we're really honored to present our second Academic Staff Excellence Award to Jennifer Alseltzer of UW-River Falls. Jennifer?
Well, first of all, thank you, Jean, for going first and take some of the pressure off, although you were a very hard act to follow. First of all, I want to start out by saying I have never done anything truly meaningful all by myself. Not only do I work in an environment that supports what I do, but also with people who want to join in and collaborate. I would like to thank my incredible boss, Dr. Alice Riley-Michaelbust, whose vision of mental health from a public health perspective inspires me every day. And I want to also thank the wonderful student health and counseling staff who wouldn't be doing this work if it wasn't for them. And boy, career counseling crew, student life, along with our incredible UWR family, the incredible staff, the students, the faculty, and of course Chancellor Van Gallen as well. And so I also have an incredible family, especially my husband, who happens to be my personal counselor, even though he's a computer guy. I am sure all of you, as we just talked about, have heard the stories about how students are entering into college with more serious and persistent mental health issues. And unfortunately, this is true. However, these stories leave out, what these stories leave out is the tremendous capacity to heal and even thrive, even after the worst circumstances. And as a counselor, I certainly don't ignore what's wrong, but I have found it so much more helpful to focus on what's right and to build on that. We have all heard of colleges that promise students the opportunity to graduate in 4 years, to study abroad, or to gain employment after graduation. But imagine if we could make the commitment to them that upon graduation they'll be healthier than before they entered college. And that's one of the high-impact practices I think we were just talking about. We can do this by creating a culture of wellness on campus that not only makes it easier to make healthy decisions, but also makes them automatic. And so in closing, I want to thank the selection committee, and I want to just express my sincere appreciation to all of you for this truly generous award and for all of your support. Thank you so much.
In addition to the individual winners of these awards, each year we also recognize an outstanding program whose success is exemplary. This year's winner is the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs at UW-Eau Claire, described as a catalyst for change on campus. Led by Dr. Karen Havholm and staffed by primarily non-instructional academic staff, the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs is nationally recognized for fostering learning through research and contributing to the international community of undergraduate research practitioners. As one example, the Office of Supported Research supported Rhodes Scholar Tayo Sanders II, a UW-Eau Claire senior whom we've had the pleasure of hearing from a few months ago at our March meeting. The office provides students like Tayo an opportunity to collaborate with faculty on research, a high-impact practice proven to increase academic performance, aid retention, and boost graduation rates. More than 1 in 3 students on campus participates in a paid collaborative research, and many more participate in unpaid research. According to survey results ORSP has conducted, a full 98% of UW-Eau Claire students would recommend student-faculty research collaborative experience to other undergraduates. ORSP also excels at developing faculty and staff, helping them to secure grant funding for projects that advance the mission of the campus and the UW system. According to a letter of support, and I quote, "In these unprecedented times of budget cuts, operational lapses, and sequestration, it could be easy for faculty to conclude there's no money out there and become demoralized and ask, why bother?" The ORSP consistently finds ways to inject energy and enthusiasm into the grant-seeking process. They generate faculty to believe that their research is so valuable that it will defy funding odds. And defy funding odds they have done. Recently, ORSP assisted faculty in chemistry, biology, material sciences, and mathematics, all STEM, in obtaining 5 National Science Foundation awards. The office played a leading role in identifying ways for UW institutions to work together to develop a collaborative vision for undergraduate research, a stepping stone to establishing the Wisconsin System Council on Undergraduate Research in 2013. Also in that same year, ORSP launched a revamped campus research event in which more than 785 students and 450 faculty mentors shared 390 projects, nearly 50% increase from 4 years previous. The office is influential on the national scene as well. The National Council of University Research Administrators selected ORSP to co-author a new edition of publication establishing and managing an office of sponsored programs at non-research intensive colleges and universities. ORSP members also serve on UW-Eau Claire's Council on Internationalization and Global Engagement. It is with great pride that I present this year's Academic Staff Excellence Award to the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs at UW-Eau Claire, represented this morning by Program Director and Assistant Vice Chancellor Dr. Karen Havholm, and she is joined by her colleague Jeremy Miner, Director of Grants and Contracts. Congratulations, and come forward.
Thank you for this honor. It is especially meaningful as an award that goes to the whole office because the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs at UW-Eau Claire functions as a team to serve our faculty, staff, and students in support of their scholarly work. It is also highly appropriate that this award comes from the Board of Regents because you and your predecessors on this board have been instrumental in making our success possible by your support over the years. In 1988, UW-Eau Claire was awarded the designation of Center of Excellence in Faculty and Undergraduate Student Research Collaboration. I don't know who came up with that name, it's too long, but And that was done by an action of the Board of Regents. The addition of a budget in Red Book at that time propelled us forward in institutionalizing the student research that was happening across campus in an ad hoc way. It led to the creation of our office and its ability to provide funding and other support to students and their mentors for their research and grant-seeking efforts. In 1993, the first all-campus student research day had 60 student research posters on display. Your support was again critical in 1998 and 2010 when our students came to you to request that they be able to pay differential tuition to support undergraduate research and the other HIPs on our campuses. You got that education earlier today. This additional funding in the Blue Gold Commitment has allowed us to expand our programming and support around 200 student-faculty research projects each year. This year, our student research event grew to 371 student research presentations, up from the original 60. These days, 37% of our students have an in-depth research experience before they graduate. And in a recent survey, 79% of research alumni who went on to postgraduate education told us their research experience was instrumental in their entrance to graduate school. 65% said it was a key to getting a job. I'm going to say that again. 65% of research alumni who are employed said their research experience was instrumental in helping them land that job. This year, you again stepped up to the plate. The Regent Scholars Awards and the Discovery Grants are making a difference not only at UW-Eau Claire, but for students all across the system. In particular, the Discovery Grants are having a major impact at each of the campuses in building infrastructure, adding programming, and enhancing student access to undergraduate research. Here I need to give a shout out to our system colleagues. You give us research administrators and undergraduate research mentors and advocates a voice in this chamber and in Madison, and support our work in so many ways. In addition, I hope Chancellor Schmidt and Provost Klein understand how important their unwavering support has been. From the bottom of our hearts, we thank all of you for your belief in and support of the growing scholarship at the comprehensive campuses and our two-year partners, and hope you will be able to continue to find ways to provide support. Our students deserve the best education possible to prepare them to be the workforce and the citizens of the future. Thank you so much for this award. Thank you.
This is always one of the highlights of this June meeting. I want to say again congratulations to all the recipients and a personal congratulations from all of us. So thank you again. Now, moving on. We have in front of us a draft calendar for year 2016 with a meeting schedule in your package. It's resolution 2.11, and that will adopt the schedule. May I have a motion to adopt this resolution? Thank you. Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. As I mentioned yesterday, the governor announced the appointment of UW-Whitewater student James Langness III to serve on this board. James succeeds Annika Pirith, of UW-La Crosse, whom we've had the very great pleasure of working with this past year. Despite the kind of heavy course load that comes with a double major in political science and public administration and a minor in criminal justice, Annika has consistently provided an important student voice for this board. We appreciate her commitment, her contributions, and we wish her the very best as she goes to law school. To present our resolution of her appreciation, I call on Regent Tim Higgins.
Well, let me preface my remarks by saying it is to Nick, to Annika, and to James, who's going to be taking over. It's really tough to be a student regent. I mean, the simple fact is, students have much going on in their lives anyway, and I think all of us who sit around this table understand that there is so much to learn, and in a 7-year term, you don't get it all in. And in a 2-year term, which is what our student regents had, in Annika's case only a year, it's nearly impossible. And yet, I know for sure, Annika has struggled mightily and mighty successfully to get up to speed and to keep up and to be a real contributor to our Board of Regents. I also want to point out that on a personal note that I had the opportunity to get to know Annika better in conjunction with our trip to the Outback Bowl, because Annika and her lovely sister Eilish attended, and for some reason or other, they actually hung out for a while with my wife Jonna and I, and with Mike Falbo and Sheila, and we just had a delightful time. And so I want to say thanks a lot to both of you guys, but I also want, Eilish, would you stand up and make yourself known? Stand up. Yeah. Eilish just graduated from high school, and congratulations on that. And I'm sure you're going to have an extremely successful college career, as your sister has done. I also want to thank both Mark and Tracy. Would you guys stand up, who are Annika and Eilish's parents, who have given my wife Jonna and I a wonderful experience of getting to know Annika, and have just done a fantastic job of raising 2 lovely young women. So thanks very much for that. So without further ado, let me move to the official whereases. Whereas Annika Pereth served as a dedicated student representative on the University of Wisconsin System Board of Regents from May 2014 to May 2015, and whereas Annika served as a thoughtful member of both the Education Committee and the Capital Planning and Budget Committee, through which she demonstrated a commitment to improving the educational experience for students, and whereas Annika worked to publicly honor and reward the commitment of outstanding UW educators by serving on the Diversity Awards Committee in 2015, and whereas, as a student and as a regent, Annika has been committed to maintaining affordability of public higher education, as well as expanding the opportunities of the UW Flexible Option Initiative, and whereas, in addition to her duties serving as a regent, Annika recently completed her junior year at UW-La Crosse, where she is double majoring in political science and public administration with a minor in criminal justice, which will prepare her well for fulfilling her dream of attending law school after graduation. And whereas Annika is an active member of many UW-La Crosse organizations, including the UWL Student Association, Political Science and Public Administration Association, and Pre-Law Association, while serving as an Eagle Guide at UW-La Crosse to mentor new first-year students, be it therefore resolved that the Board of Regents of the University of Wisconsin System extends its most sincere gratitude to Regent Annika Pereth for her leadership and service to the UW system and the citizens of Wisconsin. Annika, will you come up?
hard for me is I get to take a picture with you.
Thank you, everyone. If I didn't have enough time, or I had enough time, I actually added another minor, so I'm minoring in sociology as well. I guess I like to keep myself busy. It has been an absolute honor to serve on the Board of Regents. First and foremost, I would like to thank Governor Walker for this opportunity. As I'm sure you can imagine, I didn't know much about the UW system at the beginning of my term. However, being a student at UW-La Crosse is something that I take great pride in, and I knew that sense of pride applied to the system as a whole. Although I am saddened that my term has now come to a close, I eagerly look forward to continuing my involvement with the UW system as a student as I finish my 4th and final year at UW-La Crosse. Many people ask me why I chose to attend UWL in an effort to better understand what attracts potential students. While my response contains various components, one is especially important, and that is the advertisement provided by students themselves. Each college and university is unique, and their students excitedly share their individual experiences. It is clear that students take great pride in their education, and that, in my opinion, is a remarkable example of the impression that the UW system leaves. The UW system has truly left a significant impact in my life, and I know this to be true with my fellow students. A year from now, I will graduate with a high-quality education that has been administered by faculty, staff, and administrators who truly care. To system staff and my fellow regents, thank you for all of your hard work, assistance, and for being so welcoming. I would also like to thank President Cross for his service and for entertaining my concerns and suggestions. Your hard work and dedication to the system does not go unnoticed. Secretary Verdew, I also want to thank you for your assistance and for answering my many questions. Finally, I would like to thank my parents for their support and encouragement. I would not be standing here today if it weren't for your emphasis on the importance of education. I know that most of my time before you has been spent thanking people, but I am just so grateful for this experience. I am thankful for the greater understanding that I now have of the UW system and all the marvelous things that they have to offer. Both the colleges and universities never cease to amaze me, and more importantly, they produce exceptional students who are vital to the future of Wisconsin and the United States as a whole. As you carry on with your service, I ask that you continue to emphasize the importance of affordability and transparency, and that you keep students in the forefront of your minds. Taking President Cross's own words, I truly believe that the University of Wisconsin is also a university for Wisconsin, and I am proud to be a part of it. I wish you all the best, and thank you again for allowing me to serve with you.
In Annika's one short year, she's exemplified the very best in our many fine student regents. She's been a dedicated worker. She's worked hard to learn a lot, and she's been an excellent representative for other students, not only at UW-La Crosse, but across the system. Thank you very much, Annika, for your service. Next, we have the election of officers to the board. I have asked Regent Pruitt, who is the immediate past president, who is still serving on the board, to preside during the presidential elections. Regent Pruitt.
Thank you, Regent Milner. The bylaws of the board specify that officers of the board are elected at the annual meeting, which is held in June, and hold their offices for 1 year until their successors are elected. If there is only one nominee for an office, the election is by voice vote. If there is more than one nominee, the election is by ballot. Terms of the office begin immediately after the June meeting. So we first turn to the election of the president of the board. And I would ask, is there a nomination for the office of president of the board?
Yes.
Regent Mueller.
Thank you. Thank you, Regent Pruitt. I am honored today to nominate Regina Milner to serve as president of the UW System Board of Regents. For 2 years, she has served with distinction as vice president, working tirelessly on behalf of the students, the faculty, the staff, and the communities that they serve. She is the consummate professional, but of course we expect that of us. But I found her also to be thoughtful, well-prepared, and importantly, I think, deals with the many issues that we face with quiet strength and a state of grace. She is, in my view, deserving of this important post during these challenging times, and I hope you agree and will support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Regent Mueller. Is there a second? Second nomination. Second. Are there any further nominations? Or any further discussion? If not, and if there is, as I note, only one nomination, I will, as indicated, this election will be by voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Congratulations, Regent Milner. You are now the president of the We now turn to the election of the Vice President. Is there a nomination for the office of Vice President of the Board? Regent Whitburn.
I am pleased to nominate John Bailing to be our Vice President. Right after he finished his undergraduate work at UW River John and I had an opportunity to work together in Madison at HHS in the Thompson administration. He enjoyed a strong reputation for hard work, good judgment, and the capacity to work effectively with others, attributes that continue to serve him very well. Later, he went to our law school, and over 15 years of practice, he emerged as a talented and very successful attorney. In a career shift, he now has become vice president of an oil and gas supply company. During the term that I served as the chair of our Business and Finance Committee, John served as our vice chair. John is a smart, thoughtful, collegial regent who I know will do an excellent job as Regina's vice president. And I'm delighted to nominate him for this position.
Thank you. Regent John Bailing has been nominated as vice president. Is there a second?
Second.
That has been seconded. Is there any further are there any further nominations or any further discussion? If not, and if, as I sense, there is only one nomination, this election will also be by voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Thank you. Congratulations, Regent Bailing. You are now Vice President of the Board of Regents. The unimportant stuff. Now we go to the election of other officers of the board, which those of us who have served in this realize this is the really big stuff and important stuff. The incumbents on these offices are Jane Radu, Corporate Secretary of the Board, Jessica Lathrop, Assistant Secretary, to her Assistant Secretary, Julie Gordon, Trust Officer, Tom Stafford, Assistant Trust Officer, and Doug Herr, Assistant Trust Officer. I would like to ask if there is a nomination to elect these officers.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any further nominations for these positions?
Move to close.
Good move. There you go, Regent Bradley. If not, all those in favor of re-electing the incumbents say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Thank you. Madam President.
First of all, I would like to give our recent electees a standing ovation. They deserve it. upon Regent Pruitt to read a resolution to thank UW-Milwaukee for hosting our June meeting.
Thank you. Every year, like those pesky birds in Capistrano, the Regents return in June to the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. Personally, I like it for a lot of reasons. It's a 4.5-minute car ride from my house to the university. Since this should always be about me, I think that's an important first step. I wish you luck as you head home for that 84th Street zipper merge out there on I-94. Good luck on that. But the more important thing is it also gives us a chance, I think, to learn anew about this extraordinary institution, an access university committed to research that matters. But there is one thing I always regret, and that is that we are missing, one of the things we miss when we come here in June are 28,000 students who attend this remarkable place. Jane can attest that one of my many failed initiatives as president of the board was to try to move this meeting from June to another time of year when we might actually interact with many more of those 28,000 students. And as the chancellor said yesterday, they are a remarkable group. 9,000 first-generation students, the most in the university. 1,007 veterans, also the most in the university system. 33% students of color, the most diverse campus in our system. 90% from Wisconsin. So I know you're all going to come back many times as your service in the Regents, and I encourage you to do so, and I also encourage you to do so in September, October, or February and March. Whereas the members of the Board of Regents are pleased to recognize the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee as the official host campus for the board's June 2015 meeting, and whereas the board is grateful for the generous hospitality extended this month by Chancellor Mark Moniz and the entire UW-Milwaukee community, and whereas the board appreciated Chancellor Moniz's forthright presentation about how UW-Milwaukee is vital to the future, and whereas the Business Finance Committee appreciated hearing about UWM's plans for a contribution-based budget model, and the READY Committee was informed by Chancellor Moniz's update on the topic of research, economic development, and business outreach, and whereas UW-Milwaukee offered the Capital Planning Committee a helpful review of UWM capital facilities, including recent investments and growing challenges, and whereas the members of the Education Committee thank UW-Milwaukee Provost and Vice Chancellor Johannes Britz for the presentation, Achieving Success in Milwaukee K through College, the M-Cubed Initiative, and whereas the board was delighted to hear from the UW-Milwaukee student featured in this month's Student Spotlight, David De Filippe's, who is double majoring in biology and Italian studies. Be it therefore resolved that the Board of Regents hereby thanks UW-Milwaukee for this month's informative presentations, its innovative spirit, and its many contributions to the UW system and the state of Wisconsin. I move.
Are there any communications, petitions, or memorials from the Regents? Hearing none, I call upon Regent Peterson to offer the motion to move into closed session.
I move that the Board of Regents move into closed session to consider annual personnel evaluations as permitted by Section 19.851C of Wisconsin statutes. Ask for the roll to be called.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Regent Bailey?
No, we don't have. All right.
Yes.
Regent Bradley? Regent Delgado? Regent Evers? Regent Grebe? Yes. Regent Farrell? Regent Hall? Regent Harsey? Regent Higgins? Regent Menedy? Regent Milner?
Yes.
Regent Mueller? Regent Peterson?
Yes.
Regent Pruitt? Regent Pruitt? Regent Purian? Yes. Regent Bob? Are you yes? Regent Whitmer? Okay.